that have joined, and they're carrying their conversation. And I was chatting with the team in the back. There's a whole circle talking about youth and youth leadership in Canada. That's what I was trying to allude to when introducing the afternoon and saying there's energy and passion that we're bringing to our lives and to the work and our relationship with EWB. And the Innovation Forum is actually bringing that together. So well done. I'm going to share a few things that I've heard or that I've shared and in conversations with people tonight. Jonathan Haley, for the Vancouver Pro chapter, we talked about, he was saying, we were in the Coolamidal investment room, and he was saying there's a link between the challenges we see in Africa and in Canada. What these guys are doing is actually something that could serve us as well. And it's not just about us and them. There's actually global challenges that we're solving together. Ian Wright, he was at the Canadian mining session. He was really impressed by the level of engagement in the room and the level of participation and critical thought. He said, Jeff was under fire. I had Sarah also mention to me, Jeff has been amazing at convening a very, very challenging dialogue. And Amy from Calgary and James from Calgary and the whole table there was basically saying it was so inspiring to see the critical thinking and the engagement of the whole room in youth leadership. So it feels pretty good to have spent the whole day together like this. And it's pretty extraordinary that only a year ago we were establishing our vision. We were putting that on the table, and now we're actually practicing it. We're all engaging in something that was a dream just a year ago. So I'd love to get a round of applause for the thousands of actions that have brought us together and that make these ventures possible. The things that you're doing at your chapter city network every day. So why don't you give yourself a round of applause. I also want to celebrate the ones that have designed and partook in the new venture preparation process. It's been a huge amount of work, and it's only thanks to them that this day is possible. And finally, I'd love to have a round of applause for the courageous candidates who actually put their heart out and chose to be vulnerable and engage with you today. It's a pretty challenging thing, so congratulations to those leaders. When I think about those leaders, I'm thinking about Pam, Jody, and Josh Workman. I think the leadership is not just a couple people. Thanks, guys. The leadership is not just a couple of people that have stood in front of you. When I think about the Engineering Leadership Council, it's Pam, Jody, and Josh Workman. When I think about the By the People venture, it's not just Ian, it's also James Wetton from USask. It's a lot of people that are putting their heart and their soul into these ventures. I wanted to share with you a few words from Peter from the AfriLeads venture, from his application, that were quite inspiring to me. He said, our vision for change is a vision of an education where schools foster the skills, critical thinking, empathy, and a willingness to examine the status quo. We certainly are convinced that AfriLead as a venture is world-shattering, radical new idea and represent the possibility and the promise that a small group of motivated people can lead this change. And I think this is the same in this room. So I wanted to remind you of some of the challenges that we posed to you as you went into this room. We said, okay, you have to wear your resource prioritization hat and your critical friend and your your dream hat, because on the one hand, we are passionate, we invest in each other, we invest in those ventures, and on the other hand, we are pragmatic, and we can't do it all. And that reminds me, and I wanted to remind you of the EWB vision that was released last year. It goes like this. We are EWB. We don't accept the status quo. We combine passion and pragmatism. We challenge the status quo. We challenge and invest in each other to learn continuously, because that is what is needed to create change together. We are outraged and hopeful. Our fellow human beings continue to live in extreme poverty with dramatically diminished choices and opportunities. A mother who can't feed her family, her husband telling their son that they can't pay for school. This is an affront to our belief of what is right. Our hopes are our hopes. His drive is our drive. We serve their dreams to allow all of us to truly prosper. So, to me, there's a lot in this common purpose that we share in the room and that we share in every single of the ventures that we support. We may have our heart in one specific venture. You may be passionate about the youth venture. You may be passionate about the Canadian Fair Trade Network or AfriLead. But in the end, there's something that brings us together, and this is the fire that we have and the systemic approach to development. So in closing of day 2, I wanted to leave you with a sense of celebration. I wanted to celebrate the skills that bring us together, that you are building to be together. I wanted to celebrate the decisions that we are making together, the decisions that you are making to commit to the change that you want to see in the world. I wanted to celebrate the values that tie us together, and regardless of the change we want to create, we're all doing this with the same spirit. And I wanted to celebrate our culture of critical thinking, of engagement. Because all these steps is what makes us become EWB. So this is something I hope that you're proud of, as much as I am proud of. And congratulations for diving in today.
Bonjour tout le monde. Je m'appelle Shane Smith et je suis le président du conseil d'administration pour Ingénieurs sans frontières. Bienvenue à l'Assemblée générale annuelle 2013 de l'ISF et merci beaucoup pour votre présence. I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting tonight. We've got a tremendous turnout. Before I introduce the members of the board, I want to pay a special tribute to Tristan, who I know many of you know, but who just provided invaluable support this year in pulling together all the pre-materials for this board meeting and keeping us all organized. I have my own challenge keeping these cats herded, but Tristan does a fantastic job with the administration. So Tristan, before we start out tonight, I just want to recognize your tremendous contributions. Thank you. People may remember that Tristan was an elected member of the board and served his term and has since maintained an association with the board, which is just great. I'll remind everyone in the room, we do have voting members who you've been given your card. We had a process for that leading up to the beginning of this meeting, but we very much welcome and in fact encourage everybody else who may not be a member, and by the way, I hope that changes next year, but who may not be a voting member to participate in these proceedings. You're very welcome to participate, you just can't vote. And we very much want you to stay through the proceedings to the Q&A, which we know you'll find highly entertaining and enjoyable. So I'd like to start now by introducing the members of the board. Not all of them are here tonight, but I'm just going to march across the table and have each of them introduce themselves and just say sort of 15 seconds about themselves in terms of how long they've been on the board and you know, what their day job is, that sort of thing. So, George, I think people may know who you are, but I'm gonna start with you anyway. So, yeah, you still have to say something. Yeah. It'll be a good mic test.
There we go. Awesome. Yep, George Roeder, CEO, and as the CEO of the organization, I am on the board automatically. So I don't get elected and I don't get appointed. It just happens. Here you go.
Does one still work? All right. My name is Courtney Edwards. I'm a high school teacher with an engineering background, and I've been on the board for 2 years as an elected director, and I have 1 year remaining.
Jacques Gérin, je termine mon 2e mandat comme membre du conseil d'administration ce soir, mais je suis membre d'Ingénieurs sans frontières depuis au moins 2004 et je vais continuer de l'être pour encore 10 ans.
Seulement 10 ans. Hi, my name is Greg Richer. Mon nom est Grégoire Poirier-Richer. Je suis membre d'ISF depuis 8 ans et je termine ce soir mon mandat de 3 ans comme directeur élu, mais je prévois continuer à être membre pour 50 ans.
Bonsoir tout le monde, mon nom est Louis Dorval. Je suis membre du CA depuis 2 ans et membre d'ISF depuis 13 ans.
Nice. My name is Josh Fenwick. I am one of the elected members of the board. I was elected last year, so I have 2 more years left, and I currently work as a green building engineer in Germany.
My name is Don Thurston. I've been on the board 9 years, and this is my 12th conference. And when the other 2 directors take their spot to my left, I fall off the side here.
So there you have it, folks. In addition to the board members that are with you tonight, and I do believe we've got more board members at an AGM ever, so that's a great thing to have. Brian Schofield, who's also an outgoing board member, could not be with us. Marilyn Forstall, who is our treasurer, couldn't be with us tonight. And Catherine Carrot-Katsanis, who some of you may know as president of the PEO and of Engineers Canada at one point, or chair of Engineers Canada, could also not be here tonight. But Catherine, Marilyn, and Brian send their regards. So there you have it. This is your board of directors. Give me a hand. It's a great group, So with that, I'd like to call the 2013 Annual General Meeting of Engineers Without Borders to order. And just note the fact that by nature of the number of voting members that we have in our assembly tonight, we do actually have a quorum. Quorum is defined in our bylaws as 5% of the voting membership. So given that we have 600 plus voting members, you can do the math. We don't need that many people to achieve a quorum. So you will find an agenda on your table. Everyone should have materials in both English et en français. I'm just going to briefly review the agenda with you so you know what our program is tonight. And then I'm going to ask someone to step up and make a motion to adopt the agenda. And then I'll need a seconder. And then you're going to get the idea of how our resolutions will be flowing through the balance of the meeting. So I have some opening remarks, which I'll be happy to share with you in just a minute. We're going to approve the agenda. We approve the annual general meeting minutes from the previous year. We have a feature that we introduced last year called Accountability to Our Stakeholders, and that's a presentation by 2 African delegates to remind everybody that they are very much a part of who we are as an organization. So, and to include their perspectives in our AGM has been a practice that we'd like to continue with. Then you'll hear from the executive team, from George, Mark, and Boris, on basically how the organization performed through the course of the year. We are then going to ask you to approve our financial reports for the year, the audited financial statements, of course, and also the appointment of auditors. We then have a special series of discussions. We do have a motion that's been submitted to us, which we'll be discussing. And then we're going to talk about some developments with respect to membership policy and also corporate fundraising policies. And what we wanted to do was introduce these policies for general discussion this year, and we will obviously be disseminating those and getting comments throughout the year. We've had some discussion at the board. We felt it was very important to share these developments with our membership prior to proposing anything with respect to resolution. So we're not going to be asking for any approvals. Simply, we're going to be educating you on those developments. We are also going to elect a director from our membership tonight, and we'll be conducting that process. And then we're adjourning, and stick around because right after adjournment of the official proceedings, we're going to launch into the much anticipated Q&A session, which God knows how long that's going to go on for, but it's yours to yours to own. So we always look forward to that process every year. So with that, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Is that John? John Fishbein? And a seconder? Michael, thank you. Sorry? Yes. Actually, no, there's a motion now that's been seconded, so we have to vote on that. We can discuss the motion, but you can't make a new motion.
Okay, I'd like to create a motion to change the voting structure so that we can have the people who
Okay, that would probably require a change to our bylaws, which we can't actually do tonight. So any changes to the bylaws have to be first approved by the board of directors. However, when we get to sort of the special series of motions, there may be a motion that you want to consider to have the board study the issue or decide on the issue and come back to the membership with some sort of action. So you might want to restate the motion in that situation, or we can address it in Q&A. Okay, thank you. So back to the motion that's already on the floor. All those in favor for approving our agenda, raise your cards. Wow, a lot of cards, eh? Pretty cool. Anyone abstaining from the motion? Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Just approved your first motion. Yay! Okay, next, the minutes of the annual general meeting are something you have access to in your package and hopefully had the chance to read exhaustively leading up to this meeting. May I have a motion to adopt the minutes? Please state your name. Seconder? In the back, state your name, please. Victor, thank you. All in favor of adopting the minutes of the 2012 AGM, please raise your voting cards. Lots of cards. Anyone abstaining? One. Anyone opposing? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to now call upon Nasser Zongo to make a few comments and provide for us a perspective from our African delegation. Nasser, where are you? Nasser's out. Do we have easy access to Nasser?
We could start with Peter. Peter's just here.
Okay, good suggestion. We've got two. Okay. Nasser, come on up. We're waiting. So as I mentioned, we've got two of our African delegates who will be making some brief comments as part of our proceedings tonight. The first person will be Nasser Zongo, and that will be followed by Peter Awin. So Nasser, come on up, and it'd be great to hear what you have to say. Everybody welcome Nasser. Thank you.
Bonsoir. Je suis vraiment désolé parce que là, j'étais comme allé dans les toilettes. J'ai été capté par une personne, je commence à causer, j'ai oublié que je devais donner des feedbacks. Je pensais que ça allait arriver plus tard, mais là, ça est arrivé plus tôt. Mais on y va quand même. Ouais. Alors, merci de m'avoir donné cette opportunité de parler à ISF. Parce que ça fait maintenant 3 ans que je travaille dans cette organisation. Ça fait maintenant 3 ans que Florian, plusieurs autres personnes parlent de moi, mais je n'ai jamais eu l'opportunité de dire merci à ISF. Je vais profiter, dire merci à vous tous qui sont ici. Et puis, yes. Alors, pour cela, je vais peut-être commencer à expliquer un peu mon parcours à ISF. Et c'était en 2009, notamment en décembre 2009, lorsque je finissais mes études, j'étais passionné de créer une entreprise agricole. Je finissais mes études effectivement en économie agricole. J'avais participé à différentes formations du gouvernement comme comment créer une entreprise, comment une entreprise peut survivre dans notre économie locale. Et j'étais excité par ça et j'aimais monter mon business plan pour le gouvernement. Et avant en fait que je sois comme informé de si oui j'ai été retenu pour être financé ou pas, j'ai rencontré ISF en décembre et juste en début décembre j'ai commencé à travailler également avec ISF. Des fois on parle de moi comme si tout a été facile, mais tout n'a pas été facile. Quand j'ai commencé avec ISF, 2 semaines après, c'était comme tu commences, il y a une formation de 1 mois avant que tu ne puisses commencer ton placement. J'ai commencé à avoir mes chocs 2 semaines après, seulement au début de ma formation. Après une formation intense, c'est quoi un agent de changement, c'est quoi le développement, c'est quoi en tout cas le leadership, tous ces éléments-là, j'ai eu des maux de tête. Je ne comprenais pas c'était quoi l'ensemble de ces éléments, ce que ça signifiait pour moi. Et puis, je pensais que j'étais assez formé pour aller travailler. Et là, on me donne une formation qui me donne des maux de tête. C'était comme, waouh! Je suis un peu déçu. Donc, je pris comme une journée de vacances. Je suis désolé un peu parce que là, je n'étais pas assez préparé. Ouais, en fait, c'est juste montrer comme le processus, les chocs que j'ai vécu à travers ISF pour arriver à ce niveau-là. Et en fait, après cette étape-là, je pense que il y a eu en début janvier avec Florian qui était mon coach. Je venais de finir mon village stay où j'étais aller rencontrer quelques producteurs. J'étais censé en fait voir c'est quoi l'impact que un programme d'ISF faisait sur le terrain. C'est comme le conseil, qui s'appelait le conseil à l'exploitation familiale. J'étais content lorsque j'ai écrit mon rapport à la fin. Je disais que cette fois-ci, je vais impressionner ISF. Et Florian m'a appelé pour mon coaching. Je lui ai dit les éléments que j'ai eus dans mon rapport, les succès que je pense que le programme a fait. Et puis là, c'est comme, je reçois 1000 questions en fait de mon rapport, c'est comme si j'avais rien fait. À la fin de notre appel de 1h30, j'avais comme des maux de tête. Je me suis posé la question, c'est quoi cette organisation qui pose autant de questions? Tu sais, c'est comme, je comprends pas, mais ils m'ont dit d'aller chercher des éléments et puis, en fait, oui, en fait, cette partie-là m'a fait grandir aussi. En fait, ensuite, je pense que au fait que durant ma formation, On a parlé un peu du feedback. Je comprenais que peut-être que c'est du feedback qu'on essayait de me donner. Je me suis remobilisé pour dire oui, en fait, je peux avoir le courage de continuer avec ISF parce que ça va. Ensuite vient le troisième choc, qui était en fait la retraite en Afrique de l'Ouest. C'est la retraite en Afrique de l'Ouest, c'est l'ensemble des volontaires de long terme de ISF qui se rencontrent pour échanger, pour partager. Je peux pas participer à la retraite. 2-3 jours après, c'est comme, je comprends rien de ce qui se passe, quoi. Les gens sont impressionnants, c'est comme encore un autre monde, quoi. Tu sais, c'est comme, qu'est-ce que je fais là? Est-ce que je vais m'en sortir avec cette organisation-là? Oui, c'est... Et là également, j'ai beaucoup appris que... oui, ISF, c'est... Quoi? Je suis vraiment désolé de ne pas pouvoir me retrouver parce que là, je suis un peu mélangé dans ma préparation. Je vais continuer avec mes chocs. Mon quatrième choc, c'était un peu quand je suis venu au congrès 2010. C'était un peu le top des points. C'est comme rencontrer des milliers de personnes qui sont engagées pour le développement sur mon continent, dans mon pays, avec un niveau d'énergie incroyable. Et je me suis posé la question, qu'est-ce que moi je fais? Là, j'ai pris un peu de recul, je suis allé me coucher un peu dans ma chambre et penser beaucoup à ça. Et alors, je pense que l'ensemble de ces éléments-là, je suis parti d'un point où je voulais créer une entreprise qui était, à mon avis, à ce moment-là, je pensais que c'était une vision où j'étais même content de partager ça avec les amis lorsqu'ils me demandaient c'était quoi mon intention. Je disais oui, je vais créer mon entreprise. Ma vision, c'est de créer une entreprise agricole. Et après un an de placement avec ISF, lorsqu'on me pose la même question, c'est comme ma vision. J'ai vu que je n'avais pas une vision, j'avais une activité en fait, que je pensais à une activité, mais je n'avais pas une vision en fait. Je pense que un an à ISF m'a permis de changer cette perspective-là. Même si je pense que j'ai encore besoin de la travailler pour la raffiner, pour mieux agir sur le terrain. Oui, j'y suis. Alors, en fait, ce que je voulais dire par là, c'est que ISF doit continuer à investir beaucoup dans des milliers de jeunes en Afrique qui sont comme moi, qui sont à mon niveau, qui pensent en fait avoir une vision, mais qui n'ont qu'une activité. Ils ont besoin de croire plus en eux, comme moi, en fait, je commence à croire en moi. Ils ont besoin d'avoir plus de capacités pour aller plus loin, pour créer les changements dans leur communauté. Il est clair que ce changement-là, ISF ne peut pas continuer à le faire. Il faudrait que nous, jeunes Africains, nous prenions conscience que nous devions jouer le premier rôle, nous devions aller en premier plan de ce changement-là. Mais nous avions besoin de ISF encore pour continuer à investir dans d'autres personnes pour ce changement-là. Ouais. Ça, c'est bon. Je pense que c'est un point positif, en fait, que je donne à ISF. Je vais continuer avec mon deuxième point, quelque chose que j'ai beaucoup appris et qui m'a marqué, il y en a plein d'autres, comme je le disais à Peter, c'est facile de trouver 100 points positifs pour ISF, mais c'est difficile de trouver un point critique où c'est vraiment comme fort. Donc, je vais continuer dans ce sens. C'est la valorisation, en fait, des micro-succès. En fait, quand j'entends parler de moi, souvent, je suis intimidé, parce que là, c'est comme des petits succès, mais là, c'est comme gros. Donc, ISF valorise ce genre de petits succès-là, et ce qui fait chacun de nous, ce qui nous donne confiance d'aller plus loin, confiance en fait que oui, nous sommes le changement. Je pense que ça donne de la place à tout un chacun d'aller créer du changement. Et le changement, c'est l'ensemble des actions que nous faisions. C'est comme individuellement, bien sûr, et au quotidien. Comme j'ai l'habitude de le dire, c'est 1 plus 1 plus 1 1000 fois, ça donne 1000, mais pour le changement, ça donne comme 1, parce que c'est le même monde meilleur que nous rêvons tous de voir. C'est vraiment comme voir d'autres personnes être bien, mieux vivre, etc., etc. Alors, j'ai aussi des fois, je vais partager un proverbe local avec vous qui dit que un seul doigt ne peut pas ramasser la farine. Il faut l'ensemble des doigts, en fait, ou souvent même les 10 doigts, et tous serrés comme pour exprimer une forme de solidarité, pour pouvoir ramasser la farine et atteindre l'objectif. En fait, c'est ramasser la farine, atteindre l'objectif. Ce que je veux dire par là, c'est qu'il faudrait que nous continuions à valoriser nos actions individuelles, que chacun continue de penser que oui, chaque action qu'il fait au jour au lendemain crée le changement, crée le monde meilleur que nous rêvions de voir. Je suis désolé si ce n'est pas très clair, mais je reste disponible, je suis un peu troublé par où on en est. Et, ouais. Hein? Ouais, en fait, ok. Merci. Okay.
Merci, Nasser. Merci. Merci, Nasser. Peter, would you like to come up and make a few remarks? Please welcome Peter Alwyn.
Thank you once again. This is my third time of climbing this stage. And anytime I climb this stage, I realize that there's an opportunity once again to give a message. And so I'm so privileged to be up here. And I'm privileged that I'm having an opportunity to give a message. Especially because I know everybody is listening from the perspective of somebody from Africa who also considers himself part of the family. My journey with EWB started as just a friendship with one person. And then it moved to some kind of partnership with a few friends who came to Africa exploring and finding ways that they can be engaged. And then they wanted to hang out with somebody they felt was a very nice person to talk with. And so over these years, I see that as EWB grows, I'm also growing along with it. And now, I feel so much welcome into the family, and I'm very grateful that this opportunity has been given to me and to so many other young African leaders to be part of this family. It's something I really want to dedicate. I want to show my appreciation for everything that EWB has done for African leaders. There are a couple of things I want to comment on, and that is how much EWB, in my view, has made an impact in the lives of Africans. For me, the level of commitment that they have had for development in Africa brings a different perspective to the understanding that we have about development in Africa. And this type of commitment has been something that I always want to reflect on and see how African leaders can also have the same perspective about development. And so this year, when I heard of the conference team allowing us to reflect into the future and think about the role that we have to play, I realized that this is not just something for EWBS, it is also for the entire world, and particularly for Africa. And so one thing that I want to say is this. EWB, if you are dreaming about how you can create change and how you can create systemic change in Africa, don't let it end in your circles. Let it be something that you share with every other person that you find useful to listen to. That's the first point. Also knowing EWB also gave me a perspective that maybe they might not have seen themselves in the way some other people might see them. And so I have the privilege to listen to people talk to me about EWBS. And sometimes they are not all good stuff. Sometimes there are other perspectives. And so they feel I'm close to EWBS, and if they tell me, okay, it's going to get to them, and then so they drop it with me. One of the things that I hear people say is that EWBS, you are great at what you do, but unfortunately, it seems like you don't know how you share that with other people. I don't know how true is that. And I have my own experience of that. I mentioned I've known EWB for almost 4 years, but it was just this December that I got to know how much the network has for me as an individual. It was when I was invited to their retreat that I got to know that that was a lovely, bit of event that just within 2 days you get to learn a lot. And I was just wondering where I have been all this while with all these opportunities. And so I think this is something that we have to reflect on. How do we engage our partners? When we are working with them, and then we want to have our reflections, do we do it with them? Or we just go back, go to one of these resorts or one of these quiet places, and then together as a team, we reflect and come back with ideas. And then we don't involve our partners in this process. So at the organizational level, I believe that we should begin to think about how we can have those reflections. And I think that is the point where we can bridge that gap, where people see you as the very creative guys, see you as the ones knowing everything, and then giving them everything and thinking that, oh, we are just doing it to please them because they want us to do it. And I'm also feeling that you should see yourself more of leaders. And leaders will always want partners. And partners are people who share common interests with you. They share the same vision with you. And they also hope that when there's success, they share the success with you. And so at this point, I want to say, I want to see EWB move from being middlemen, in quotes, because most often people see you as having the ideas and you are selling your ideas to them. And then you are doing it in a smart way so that they don't notice that it is your ideas. To being partners and real partners in their own development. And being part of the system, because if you want to be changing the system, you need to be part of the system. And being part of the system is to immerse yourself in that system and learn. Spend time learning. Because most often, what we think we want to change, probably we will end up spending a lot of years doing that. And we realize that that wasn't the direction we needed to go. So this is just a piece of message I have. But I want to say, and by just mentioning what I said already, I've grown with the EWB, and I love to be part of this family. But I feel like I'm just one person of a million people who can benefit from this. And so let's keep on sharing this particular gift that we have had so far. And let's share it wide. And I hope the systemic change that we seek in 2036 is going to come. And when it comes, we are all going to be together. And then we will all be happy to be celebrating it together. Thank you very much.
So one of the things that we wanted to do this year was to basically enhance this accountability section of the AGM by actually looking backwards on what some of these presentations were that we've had from African delegates and our partners during past AGMs over the past couple of years, and to actually do a very quick look at how we've responded to some of those recommendations, or if we've responded to some of those recommendations. So I'm going to take 1 minute to do so. Before I do so, I just wanted to thank Nasser and Peter, amazing partners, incredibly wise words, and something that I certainly took to heart, and lots there to think about. The 2 years that we've done this, the 2 years that we've done this, we've heard sort of 3 messages in those 2 years as part of this that have been captured as part of the minutes of the meeting, and so we went back and pulled those out. And last year it was Sylvester who was up here on stage and actually shared something fairly similar to what Peter shared around bringing more of our partners and the champions from Africa into our strategy and into our meetings. And while I think that we have a long way to go on this, our teams actually started doing that for the first time this year, first time ever that we've had Peter and other of our partners. I think we have a long way to go, and we need to think about how to do this better across the organization. But I think that we've started to kind of internalize this this notion of partnership and how we actually bring others into our thinking. And we've taken some baby steps towards that, but clearly there's some substantial more work to do. In 2011, we had 2 African delegates come up, and one was Bazantali, and the other was Dagano. Yeah, that's right, Dagano. And they brought up two issues, in fact, that were quite similar as things that we should be and could be working on. The first was directly investing in looking at gender and how we address issues around gender within our work in Africa in particular, but also more broadly within the organization. And the second was, and both of them suggested that we needed to get EWB chapters at African universities, and it was an absolute priority. In terms of the first one, I think some of you have had the opportunity probably already during this conference to engage with Aaron Aylward. And I think the story with Aaron is an incredible one, an amazing EWBer and leader. At this conference last year, the conference last year, really engaged and set up a conversation, an initial conversation on gender in EWB. And rather than saying, this is a problem in EWB and just leaving it at that, actually took action immediately at the conference and then subsequently framed a grant proposal to her university, got the grant to actually go overseas with EWB and spend time in the national office full time to look at gender within EWB and within our African work. So I don't know if Aaron's in the room, but if you are, a huge round of applause for taking action. And truly owning something that she was passionate about within this organization and rallying others around it, even if it's sort of for I can say it was really neat. Actually, I've had some empathy with this with some of our African partners potentially, because I feel like I've been influenced as we sometimes influence as middlemen. Aaron has influenced as a middleman or woman to sort of the gender conversations in I think a really interesting and positive way. The second around chapters at African universities, frankly, we haven't looked at this, but clearly, based on the new venture that's being pitched and was pitched today, there are lots of people thinking about it. So we'll see how that develops and how that grows over the years ahead. So that's looking backwards and reporting on what we've heard in past years, and we'll continue to do so as we move forward.
Great, thanks, George. Okay, the next order of business is the report from the CEO and the executive team. But I thought I would kind of delay my opening remarks to kind of just act as a preamble to the report that you're going to hear from George and his team on how the organization did this year. So first of all, I do want to say to you that it is very much a personal honor to serve as the chair of the board and to be able to support what I believe is just an absolutely amazing organization. And those of you who have heard me speak about my observations about EWB in terms of why it's and how it's so unique in the world know my deep conviction for what you are doing at this conference and what you are doing around the world. I honestly believe that if there is one organization on the planet that can change the world, it's represented by the people in this room and by the organizations across the country and in Africa that represent EWB Canada. I love you people, I love EWB, and it's just, it's always an emotional couple days when I'm able to sort of immerse myself in this national conference. So with that, just give yourselves a hand. You're just the most amazing organization. Now back to sort of board business. One of the key roles that EWB's board plays and wants to play is to really support the development of EWB's vision and strategy, and also to ensure that EWB's financial resources are adequate to meet its current and future needs. And that really relates to the board's interaction on the management of the balance sheet, on the spending and cash flow plans, and on the annual budgeting process. And the other thing that boards do is it assures that there is management accountability for the performance of the organization. And this year, for the first time, we established documented objectives for George and the executive team, and we agreed as a board to focus our activities throughout the year to support the team to achieve those objectives. And I'll just kind of summarize, what those priorities were for the year. The first priority was to ensure that George and the executive team were adequately supported in their development, and that within EWB, that there exists a sustainable management structure, and that's being put in place to be able to take the organization to the next level. Maintenant, c'est possible d'avoir un équilibre en votre vie personnelle et une longue carrière au sein d'Ingénieurs Sans Frontières. Yeah. We're working to that. You can spend your life at EWB. Secondly, to promote the understanding of EWB's new vision throughout the organization. And I think this conference and the activities that the team undertook throughout the year were very much in alignment with that expectation. Thirdly, to support the development of EWB's overall transition to venture programs while maintaining the strong connectivity with the network. And fourth, to manage the cash flows and to support fundraising efforts to build a funding reserve that will mitigate future cash flow shortages, facilitate planning of longer-term resources, and make sure that there is adequate financial resources to be opportunistic. And as we move towards the venture model, we want to be able to have the financial resources to, within a fairly short period of time, take advantage of a lot of the great ideas that are being developed within the organization. So I have to say that the board is very, very pleased with the progress that we've made this year in all those areas. The board believes in EWB's new vision, and we very, very much believe in George and his executive team and the teams within the national office and within our African programs that support that vision. And once again, just want to give the team and give yourselves a hand for what the board sees very much as an incredible year, and you'll hear more about it in a few minutes. But just an amazing achievement. The members of the board have also been working on the governance side of the House, and Louis has been leading that team to ensure that the board of directors has the composition, or is composed, to address the future needs of the organization. And as you'll hear today, we have a number of outgoing directors, and this has provided us with the opportunity to look at where the gaps are, as in alignment with our future strategy, and who do we need on the board to continue to support EWB's new vision. So the opportunity to add to that, add to our existing talent, we're going to be taking advantage of that. Over the past several years, we've also continued to improve our overall transparency in what I would say all parts of our business. That relates to transparency with respect to the board process, transparency with respect to strategic planning and allocation of resources. And we're even one of the first nonprofits to begin to share our quarterly financial statements publicly to show clear financial accountability and transparency. So just in conclusion, I would say that overall the board believes that, that we've had a fantastic year, and you're about to hear about it. But more importantly, we believe that 2013 will be EWB's best year ever. And we're proud to support the membership, the organization, and the management team in terms of achieving this vision over the coming year. So with that, I'd like to bring George back. I'd like to invite the members of the executive team, Boris Martin and Mark Abbott, and also Anna Hopkins, who is the team leader for the network team, and ask Anna to come join us. We may need to do a bit of a chair shuffle here, but we'll make some room and get some chairs. Great. Thanks, George.
Thank you, Shane. And one thing that I think doesn't oftentimes get pointed out, because I think the work of the board is quite invisible through the year to many of you, is the role that Shane and the rest of the board have played in helping lead really effectively this organization, and really the remarks that Shane made around this being the first year that we've had objectives established, that we've had the board deeply active in helping guide our resource decisions is very true, and there's a tremendous amount of leadership there from all the board members, and Shane in particular has played an amazing role. So Shane and a mentor role to me. So thanks for that, Shane, and thanks for this leadership that you provide. I'm going to be very brief to start off and then hand it over to the rest of the team. And the brief overview that I wanted to give is very much at a top level in terms of, at an umbrella level, what's going on in the organization, or what we've seen going on in the organization. And to look at just 2012 in isolation I don't think does it quite justice as to the journey that we've been on over the past few years. If we go back all the way, even a few years ago, when we got rid of our original mission statement and didn't replace it right away, and then spent a number of years with a lot of ambiguity, conversations to establish a new vision, which we did, and collectively discovered and established and eventually articulated towards the end of 2011, and then we talked a lot about at this conference last year. That really provides the context for where we were at on January 1st, 2012, which was we had a vision, it reflected conversations that we've had within the organization with leaders were saying about where the organization could go and how we could maximize our impact. But I wouldn't necessarily say it was beautifully and perfectly understood as to what that vision was, exactly, what all of the elements of it meant. And of course, it's an emerging strategy that goes into actually putting this thing into action. And really, that's what 2012 was about, both really making sure that we all knew what this vision meant to the organization moving forward, and the second is starting to put in place the pieces to put it into action. And so we spent a bunch of time as an office team and also as all of our team leaders and venture leaders actually from Africa who were in the office at the end of January, establishing eventually 2 priorities to move the organization forward towards, and we said, 5 years from now, being the best incubator of systemic change that we could be. And those 2 priorities were really best described as, one, everybody within EWB has a really good grasp of what this vision is, and second is that we continually update, or we develop a continually improving decision-making process on how we allocate resources and how we decide where we are putting our efforts. And there were a lot of other things on the list that we will eventually get to. Things like investing in knowledge management, things like investing in internal communications and those types of things. These are the ones that we prioritized up front. And it was based on a lot of discussions that we made those decisions. And really to give a sense of how we think we did on this, one of the things that we tried to do was do a bit of a baseline on because they very much were, we believed, being able to judge our progress against this was very much on what EWBers were feeling. And so we did a bit of a baseline survey in July and asked questions both about trust in our decision-making process and in knowledge of the vision. And in between the spring and around now, we had literally hundreds of EWBers participate in workshops to really understand and dive into the vision at regional retreats, at JF training, at presidents' retreats, various of them, at new training for new African program staff who were heading on ventures. So we put some effort behind it, and I think what we've seen is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but as we've sort of asked people about the vision, we've seen a fairly big move of the needle around people's understanding of what some of these key terms are. And I think what we've done is we've established a foundation there. Doesn't mean we can rest on our laurels by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that actually we can be pretty proud collectively all together of having established a really strong foundation where we can now start moving forward with asking, how do we implement this vision rather than what is this thing? The second is that any great organization, I think, especially one like EWB, which has so much distributed activities and leadership and decision, needs to have collective trust in one another to make those decisions all around the organization. And in particular, we felt where we had the opportunity to do a lot better job this year was trust in the decisions that the national office teams were making. And to do so, and in fact, I don't know if Sarah Grant is in the room. I don't think she is, because I think she's in just outside. But Sarah Grant was actually very instrumental in looking at how we were making decisions and the timelines. And one of the steps we took that we'll talk about later in the financial report was to align all of the decisions in the organization so they're happening at roughly the same time. And you'll hear a little bit more about that. But we also sought to make these things more transparent. So, and some of you will have seen those throughout the year. I would say that we did an okay job of this. We certainly moved the bar forward throughout the year in terms of the reported trust in how we make decisions, which I think is excellent. But as you can see by that second stat or survey is, people in this organization, all of you, still don't know who makes decisions and where they're made and how they're made. And I think we have a lot more work to do on that. And again, hopefully we can do a little bit of that today. Where we didn't deliver, and we deprioritized this, and I don't know, I have to do some more reflection on whether or not I'd personally go back and advocate to add this or to make a different decision around this, but I don't think we personally delivered as well as we could have on internal communications. And even, I think we were sensing this in the conference, which sort of resulted in the rush to get a one-pager out this morning that explained the venture model, is we realized, oh man, that one-pager actually should have been out, in August, when we could have written it. And I think that while we've done a bit better, and certainly have picked up steam on this, this is something that we're going to need to put significant efforts behind in the next year, and we're going to need help on it from all of you in this room to figure out what are the best modes of doing that, how do we collect the information really effectively, but I think that it's had some harm on the organization in not doing this better in this past year. The one thing that wasn't a priority, but that emerged as something that we needed to do partway through the year, was really establish the different buckets of the organization that could be managed in a great way. And we rejigged things partway through the year to have these 4 areas. We have 3 incredible leaders who I'm going to bring up right now to talk a little bit about what they saw this past year in these areas, and also talk a little bit about what they're seeing moving forward. And so I'll start, because it also gives me the opportunity to introduce it a little bit. But Anna Hopkins has very recently sort of stepped into a leadership role for the network team, which is extremely exciting. And it's just emerging that this is kind of an ongoing conversation, so there's a little bit of a sort of semi-discomfort potentially on Anna's part, because we're just talking about what this role is right now and scoping it out. But very much she's leading this team of incredible people who are on the network team. So I'll bring her up first, actually, to talk a little bit about where the network's at.
Hey friends. Before I share anything, I actually just wanted to share a quote that's been keeping me both grounded and really inspired over the past little while, when I've been doing, collectively we've been doing a lot of thinking and slogging through a lot of strategy, which isn't necessarily where I love, really prefer spending my time. So I've really been enjoying this quote, so I thought I would share it just to kind of get us back to the purpose of this network. And so the quote is from Otto Scharmer, and an article that you can find around sustainability and environmental change. So the real bottleneck in all deeper systemic change efforts is not technical knowledge of individuals, institutions, or systems. It is the relational and transformational capacity building that not only touches individuals, but engages and empowers the entire system. We must build this missing collective leadership capacity. We need to broaden the concept of leadership from a few at the top to change makers across all institutions, and to deepen it. And I think that's a really exciting way to think about the future and what this group of people will look like, and that broader group of people that have been through for many, many years, 10, 20 years from now. It really inspires me to think about these types of change makers across all sorts of institutions. So that's, anyway, just to give you insight on what keeps me grounded when things get crazy. And I'd say this past year has been a little bit crazy. There's been a lot of change in general, and I'd say one big change is that the network team wasn't a thing until about July, August of this year. And so I guess just to explain a little bit about that, currently the network team, the way we're thinking about it, or our current scope of focus is really on student chapters, city networks, and other vehicles, I'm calling them, for engagement within our broader network. So that could include distributed teams and other types of groups also looking at alumni engagement, though I really want to remove that word from our vocabulary, if at all possible, so something to think about. And just to give you a sense, I'd say initially this has been more of a reconfiguration than new resource allocation. It was really taking a few people working on, city networks, students, some IT community building, and mashing us up together, which I think is a really, really smart choice. And soon we'll be welcoming a new resource. Robin Chatwin-Davies will be starting with us in a couple weeks. And then we will have lots of extra capacity with Robin's capable self. So that's just a little bit of context. I'd say that given that context, that we've only really been around since August, a lot of the functions that we've been performing are quite consistent with past years. So we've seen, we've run a lot of president's retreats, we've done a lot of regional retreats, tons of coaching, chapter visits, community building, all those really core essential functions that are really at the root of our team. I'd say a few just highlights to share from the past year. One would be welcoming UBCO as a full-on university chapter this year. And also, this hasn't been formally announced, I guess, really, which is my bad, but BCIT is also a chapter initiative now, which is really incredibly exciting. I'd also, and I think as you saw today on stage, the Montreal Network is also kind of coming together in new and interesting ways, which I think have a lot to tell us about our future. Just a few other quick highlights. We've seen a lot of really high energy and ownership across the network for really coming together around ideas, coming together to try and embrace this new vision and understand what exactly that means for all of us. And I've had incredible thought partnership from many, many of you in this room on that, and I hope to continue that. Actually, I know I will. There was about 40 of us in groups last night until about 10 o'clock talking about that network strategy integration piece. So those conversations will continue. As well as just doing that normal coaching consulting role that we like to play a lot of. So coaching and consulting kind of with chapters and our membership, and also actually with teams in the office who often come up and say, okay, how do I engage our network on this? What does that look like? Which takes a lot of our time as well. Quickly, just moving forward, this year, really the next couple of weeks and beyond are going to be focusing on continuing to solidify that strategy and to understand what our network needs to look like moving forward, both to really maximize the potential of our people to create change and to fuel the venture impact we're aiming for. So there'll be more on that and lots of opportunities to engage coming up. And I'd say a few things to think about there that I've been categorizing in three main ways. What is the breadth of our network need to look like moving forward, even if we think a few years from now in 2017? What does that breadth need to look like? What is the depth of that network? And what is the character of that network? So I think those are still really big questions, and we have lots of ideas and scenarios in our minds, but again, very excited to engage on that. I think I'm going to, I don't know if that was enough, if that's good, but I'm going to leave it there and just say that actually tonight I'm not standing in front of you as a voting member, unfortunately, but I just wanted to say that I'm actually not that upset about it because I really trust the collective wisdom in this room and this network to think about the kinds of policies, bylaws, questions, leaders, new board members we need, and I'm really excited to see the outcomes of those conversations later tonight, so thank you.
Hello, everyone. Mark, I lead the talent team. And just before getting to the talent team update, just to build a little bit on what George said before about the progress of this last year, as many of you have experienced, conference is a real natural time for reflection on how far we've progressed. And EWB continues to amaze me. You continue to amaze me in terms of, we launched that new vision at the last conference, and it's just amazing how far we've come in this 1 year, and I never would have believed it. Incredible ride. It's not smooth at all times, but looking back at the whole journey, it's just astounding. So thank you all for making that happen. This was a big year for the talent team in that we formed as a team. That was kind of at the end of the summer, and the idea is to help focus on attracting the top level talent to full-time roles within EWB and engaging them and enabling them once they're in those roles to really contribute at their fullest and highest potential. By full-time roles, we're talking about roles within the national office staff. So you have the incubator teams that are based in the national office. You have Canadian venture leaders that are based in the office or based increasingly actually not just in the national office but out across the network as well, working right in the systems that we're working on. So we have also SCF and SCE roles, so social change fellows and social change entrepreneurs. They're full-time roles that are short-term, so typically 4 months, although we're looking at some flexible models around that. And then on the Africa side, we have African-based venture leaders. We have the APS, the African Program Staff. We have junior fellows, professional fellows, and the Kumbana program. So all of these different opportunities within EWB, which hopefully a bunch of you will be taking, many of you will be taking advantage of in the future. So for those of you who are following along with the structure changes, the formation of the talent team came from actually what was previously the people team. So previously we had a talent, one people team that kind of looked at both the network and the full-time roles. And the decision to split the two was really in recognition that there's a different type of focus and different type of needs for the full-time roles versus knitting and animating and nurturing the connections within the network. And so by allowing for that increased focus in the two areas and adding resources to both teams, I believe that we're really living our value of investing in people. For the talent team, we're looking at what's required and what do we need to do to evolve our talent systems to meet the future needs and dreams of our visions and incubator teams. And that's going to mean that we have to really take a hard look at what we need to protect amongst these changes and be really intentional about that, the things that we're already doing really well, but what also we need to let go of the way we've been doing things to make room for the changes and the growth that's going to be required so that we can really evolve the talent team into the future. One of the big feedbacks for this year is to create strong feedback mechanisms to support that evolution so that we can continually evolve our knowledge of what it means to be top-level social and systems change leaders. Another big priority is to make sure that everyone's aware of the amazing opportunities inside EWB. If you talk to people that have had a chance to work in the office, you get a real sense of how transformative an opportunity it is. And so we want to make sure that all EWBers know what those opportunities are and can put them into their career planning. And once people are in full-time roles, our goal is to enable staff to provide the training and the support to help them unlock their unique strengths and bring them to bear towards helping us achieve the world we want to see. And of course, you know, we've made this decision to split the talent and network team so we can provide that focus and also increase our resources in both areas. But I'm looking forward to working closely with the network team and all the other parts of the organization in a truly integrated fashion so that we can become that best incubator of systemic changes. So that's the update on the talent team.
Okay, so my name is Boris. I'm going to give you a bit of an update on the strategy and investment team. If I look back at the year, I would say that I'm proud of the progress that we've made. I think we've worked pretty hard. It's not 100%, and I'm hoping to give you an idea of where we've performed and where we haven't. So first, we've set up a team. At the start of the year, I was pretty much alone in that team, and now we have Sal Alajak, Mike Klassen, Mike Kang, Sam Burton, and who have I missed? And James Haga, who are like all part of the strategy and investment team, providing support to all the ventures that are in EWB's portfolio, and providing also the voice of those ventures with our advocacy work. So we've set up that team, and I would say that, well, you can ask the team. I'm probably the worst to actually evaluate that. But from the feedback that I've heard, it's gone fairly well. I think we've had a lot of fun. It was the first time ever. We're a very distributed team. There are people in the UK, there are people in Africa and Uganda, and you know, James is oftentimes in Boston, and Sam and I are in the office, and so. We work in a very remote way, and 5 days ago was the first time that we were in the same physical space, but we've been laughing a lot together and enjoying that time, and I think it's a fairly important thing. In forming the team, I have to admit that there are things that haven't gone amazingly well. I think when James and I started our relationship, I potentially didn't listen enough to what the trajectory of the advocacy team had been to really understand what it could, like how far it could go and how fast it could go towards some of the integration that we desired with the reality on the ground of the ventures that we support. And that's, I think, resulted in no campaign in the past 6 months, for example, when in fact at CEDA, their Minister Fantino is not making much sense to us. Yeah, and so I mean, it was a missed opportunity. It isn't the case anymore. I think James has helped me see that and grow in the support that I can provide him and Sam, and I think we're set up for success for the next year. One second thing that we've done is really clarify what it means to be a venture within our portfolio, and in terms of the support that a venture can expect from us, but also the performance and the focus that we expect from them. So the By the People venture was sort of created by separating some of the functions that advocacy as a big nebulous thing was doing at the time, and now Ian is leading that venture from Ottawa, and that's a different thing. But in that transition, I think we could have done better on the campaign side, which is also a very important piece of both accelerating Ian's venture and other ventures, but also for us as an organization, EWB. Third piece on venture results. We're here to actually support ventures in accelerating their progress towards systemic change. So it's important to also measure our success in that area. I'm taking pride in some of the progress that the AVC team has done, the Agriculture Value Chains team. I think both in terms of internal rigor in making sense of their environment, like Francis Wesley was mentioning, the sense making, the art of seeing how your system is responding to what you're doing, and also in seeing the amount of traction that they're actually seeing from their partners. I mean, because Shane is right there, I'm going to say it. In Uganda, the Tetra Tech ARD project was doing really bad, and now it's doing amazing. And that's EWB, not Tetra Tech. So, but no, seriously, there's an online community of practitioners in market facilitation where EWBers very, very often rank as top influencers. It's quite remarkable, and the traction that the venture is demonstrating at USAID in Washington is also pretty remarkable. It's one example. All the ventures have made some fairly significant progress. I'm very, very proud of the amount of rigor that people have put to their strategy, but also to simply starting to try things on the ground. And so seek out the stories and feel free to engage with them. The last piece of this year, of this retrospective, is a personal one. I don't know if she's in the room, but I wanted to thank Suzanne Fish. I think I've gone through a personal transformation in my leadership this year, and she's been a big part of making that happen through one key conversation. And I think the past 6 months have been potentially some of the most productive for me, but the first 6 weren't, definitely not. And it's something I've actually, it was you can ask her for that kind of coaching, but I was biting my nails for 15 years, I think. Well, since I was 15, and I've stopped. And I think it's a deep transformation. And it comes with, I'm excited about it because it definitely has changed my proactivity and the way I lead my team, and I lead my work and the vision that I have for this organization. Yeah, if I look ahead for the next year, we have decisions to make about what ventures we support, and it's a decision that we're not making alone. There's a committee that's being formed. There are presidents that are part of that. There are a few people, a sample of people from the organization, and we still need to shape exactly what that decision-making process is. Obviously, George has a very important role to play in this. He's the CEO of the organization, and there's something that he has, if you know the RAPID framework, he has a final D on that. And that's something we need to help him do well, meaning that we actually have some very strong recommendations and well-informed, recommendations on that. Making sense of what supporting ventures mean. I think we've focused in a few areas, like making sense of the process of systemic change and how that happens. You've benefited from that, from the learning through all the sessions that you've participated in. And it's good. I think it's good for the organization as a whole because everyone in the organization understanding how systemic change happens makes sure that there will be 25 ventures next year on the table, at the Innovation Forum. And so that was an important piece to get right. But there are so many other ways that we accelerate ventures towards systemic change that we need to start making sense of. Anna mentioned the interaction between the network and the portfolio, and it's an area of creativity that's going to be exciting to dive into. There's already a lot of ideas that have come from like conversations, pockets of conversations in the conference, and this is a fairly exciting area to progress. And finally, ventures. I mean, we have some pretty exciting work in the pipeline. I think the Watson Venture, AVC, Vodo, GE, BDS, CFTN, GARI, AGEX. There's so much potential for progress. It's something that I can't really disaggregate so easily. But you can definitely look forward to hearing from that during the year. Thank you.
To complete the report from the executive team, I'm going to ask George to once again address you and deal specifically with the summary of the financial reporting, which you have access to. There should be copies of it on the table, the financial summary, and also the audited financial statements. George?
Great. Before I do so, I'm just going to make two quick comments on the operations side of the organization, which is obviously an important piece of what EWB does, which includes fundraising, finance, communications, administration, and IT. So just a quick look back and a quick look ahead on probably on two areas. I'll bring finance and administration together with IT and communications, and as we move into the financial report, we're going to hear a little bit about fundraising, or now invested partnerships. On finance, admin, and IT, I think one of the things that we did when we sat down this past year, at the beginning of the year, we set a goal in the admin area of the organization through process improvements to save 500 hours of staff time. That was the goal. We identified that we could make efficiency improvements that would allow us to save 500 hours of staff time, mainly through automation. I would say we did okay on that. We got probably about 40% of the way there, easily identified the next 60%. Lost a little bit of steam, mainly because we didn't anticipate that we would need to allocate capacity to actually get that extra hours and back. So there was a really interesting kind of paradox there that we've learned from, and we're moving forward this year with. In terms of finance, the other thing that we did was there was a goal, certainly by Ashley Hardell, to basically, the best way to describe it was get George out of finance. It was the best way to describe it. And she had a very tangible goal, which was George is not to open QuickBooks at all during the entire year. And I can say that save one moment of weakness that I had on one small day in May, we were successful at doing that, and I did not open the financial accounts of the organization. And Ashley Hartle, unfortunately, wasn't able to join us at the conference in AGM tonight due to some family issues, but her leadership in this area is tremendous. We had an audit, which you'll hear about later, and it was clean, which never happens in almost any organization ever. There's always usually 1 or 2 or 3 changes. There were 0 this year, which is a testament to her incredible competence and leadership on the financial side of the organization. Absolutely. And also Mary Lynn, who's the chair of the Finance and Audit Committee, who's also not here, but provided some great leadership in that area of the organization as well. In terms of communications, well, let me talk sort of moving forward on finance and administration. We're still going on administration towards that 500-hour goal. We think it's achievable, and what we are planning to do is really bring in a part-time resource to be able to achieve that and capture it, so that we can truly get better in that area. The other very exciting thing on the finance side, those of you who haven't met her yet, we have a new member of the finance team. Trinley is at the back there, who's been in EWB for a month, probably has made the quickest integration I've ever seen out of anybody into the kind of crazy culture of the organization. We've, looking forward to her providing incredible value this coming year. On the communication side, what you'll see on your tables is actually the result of a lot of work this year on the communication side of the organization, on external messaging. The cover of your annual report is a false cover, in fact, of messaging. And it's this newest messaging that we have, that Ward has provided incredible leadership on really describing the organization. And this is something that we've heard for a number of years, that we don't have the tools. None of you have all said we don't have the tools to sell EWB the way that we should be selling EWB. And I think this follows a great line of having intelligent messaging that doesn't compromise what EWB is, but simple enough such that a layperson can understand that EWB is doing something different, which is outsmarting poverty rather than just adding resources through smart people, smart ventures, and smart ideas. And right now, this is what I would call a very strong beta version, and Ward is giving me a slightly dirty look because he wants it to be a very, very, very strong beta version. But we'd still like feedback on this. There's opportunities to kind of just sharpen it, tighten it, make sure that it's great, make sure that you can use it as well as you can. But a quick round of applause to Ward for doing an incredible job on this. Moving forward, one of the things that I wanted to show you, and this is not going to look very good, but this coming year is Ward and has engaged let me see if I can, there we go. A past EWBer, those of you who may know him, Tony Hancock, to actually work on a new website for EWB that incorporates this messaging. This is a very early sneak preview of it. The About Us, the Get Involved, one of the things that you'll see is it's really putting people at the heart of EWB. You will be able to kind of go in and get profiles on individuals and what they're connected to in the organization, various different venture leaders or others. This shows that if you kind of hover over, you'll see a flip card that'll flip up and tell you a little bit about this person. And then you can actually click in and see more about a venture. So in this case, the Malawi Water and Sanitation venture, and it'll give you a venture profile. It'll talk a little bit about what that venture strategy is. It will have beautiful pictures of the various venture team members, and also have integration directly into social media and blogs and everything. So this is a huge step forward, a big set of work that is coming up this coming year. and very exciting on the communication side. So that's the operations side of the organization minus invested partnerships, which we'll get to in a second. Before I move there, just a thank you to the executive team, our team leaders, people who lead every part of this organization as full-time staff members. It's an incredible. I sent a quick note before the holidays, and one of the things that I constantly realize on spending time outside of the office is absolutely how lucky I am to get to work with the people I work with, where every single person who I work with in EWB is committed, motivated, intelligent, emotionally and otherwise, and just a remarkable group of people who just make me proud every day to get to work with. So a big hand for the staff team. I'm going to actually go through the financial report very, very rapidly, because one of the things that we did this year, and it's entirely because Ashley Hardill is not here as a rock star, is that you have a very good financial memo in front of you that explains everything that I could possibly say. And it's in the annual report, and you can see it here. It's sort of, the best way to describe it is it's like sort of the long version. It's kind of the novel that goes behind the numbers in the annual report. And so I'm not going to talk too much about it and the numbers, other than pointing out a couple of interesting things. The first is that we dramatically changed our budgeting process this past year to move from what I would call a situation where we set a very ambitious revenue target and scrambled the entire year to try and meet it, and spent lots of money, and then halfway through the year may have realized we needed to pull back on spending money because we weren't raising enough revenue, and causing a lot of challenges that way, to rather actually establishing some really interesting principles at the beginning of the year on a few things. One is investing in the foundational capacity of EWB, so the ability of our teams to raise money and to manage the organization more effectively, and investing in ventures, but also planning for a surplus of at least 10% that would give us the operational flexibility and capacity moving forward with the organization. And you can read more about it, and you can definitely ask questions about it in the question and answer period. I won't go through this too much because, again, all of this is in the financial report. Feel free to ask questions about it if you'd like. But effectively, what you see is a stepwise process where we, rather than made a decision at the beginning of the year and then just saw how things happened, we actually set ourselves up to make a series of decisions throughout the year as we knew more and more about what our revenue was going to be at the end of the year. And so we kind of established a prioritized series of new expenditures that we would make as we got new revenues in, and set a few times during the year when we would make those new decisions, and the board really guided us through that in a remarkable way. They also really pushed very hard, and I think this is a very good decision, to plan for a substantial operating reserve. And the reason for this is that this gives us the flexibility we need and the independence we need to make great decisions in the future, to invest in things regardless of whether or not there's a funder right that moment ready to invest in it. It also gives us the cash to be able to run the organization rather than having to wonder whether or not we can pay salaries at the end of this month if we don't get a couple of receivables in. And that's, I can tell you from experience, not a wonderful feeling to not know if you're going to be able to pay salaries that month. And so it creates what I would call a much more stable operating environment, but also much greater opportunities to invest in intelligent ways. You'll see a small decline in revenue growth. Effectively, we grew our revenue this year, but we had a smaller conference than the previous year. We didn't grow it massively, but we grew it incrementally. You'll see that from this slide and sort of how the revenue mix has evolved, and how the expense mix has evolved over the years. Again, you can ask some more questions about this if you'd like. One of the really great highlights was the national conference from last year, and I think Clément is gone, but If he were here, well, we should probably still give him a round of applause, and he can look at it on the video from the live stream. But he led his team to, in addition to some kind of fairly hard-ass negotiating with the hotel at the end for having a terrible construction situation, but he led the team to an incredible surplus for the conference that really made up for a fairly dramatic loss the previous year. So a huge round of applause for Clément for absolutely turning the conference around. And the hope is because conference is such a fetching sponsorship opportunity for companies, and I'm sure we'll have some questions about that later, but it really is a great opportunity where we can provide value that companies value. We decided that this is something that we'd like to do moving forward, is to use it to have a surplus, to be able to have more flexible money that we can invest in ventures moving forward. And so that's the plan moving forward. Probably won't reach 100,000 each year, but a significant surplus. And again, the conference team this year is very much on track for that. So when we break down venture versus the incubator is, best way to describe it is everything that's in the network box, the talent box, and the operations box. And part of what's in the strategy and investment box. And the part of that that's in there is our salaries for the portfolio managers and travel expenses. What's in the ventures is you have the expenses of the ventures actually in the field. So you see some of this, again, it's in the document that you have in front of you. The one thing that I did want to spend a tiny bit more time on in terms of fundraising, before I do so, I think I skipped over it a little bit too quickly. You know, one of the things that I think our now invested partnerships team did this year was to build itself. And what's challenging about getting money in the door is oftentimes the efforts that you put in any given year don't yield returns until many years down the road, 1, 2, 3 years down the road, especially on some of these larger partnerships. And you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the leadership of Beth Brody for being able to build this team, deliver a new vision for the team, a new name for the team that is paradigm shifting on how we think about the money that's coming into the organization, and to grow the revenue. And I think more importantly, which you'll start to see in 2013 and 2014 and 2015, establish the basis for really great revenue growth in the future. We have a pipeline of new partners, foundations, companies, individuals who are kind of coming closer and closer to making big commitments to the organization, which is really exciting and a testament to Beth's leadership. So thanks, Beth, for that. I did want to spend a little bit of time on Chapter and City Network fundraising, because this is a conversation that we think we want to kind of start off right now, because it's an area that had a pretty dramatic change this year, or quite a bit of difference from what we've seen in terms of trends. And there's probably a few things, and you can see some of the graphs there, but what we really did an analysis on is where chapters and city networks and our network was raising money from. And what we saw over the year is a decrease in fundraising from local sources, so universities, events, various other local sources of funding, an increase in chapters and city networks relying on nationally developed platforms or campaigns to fundraise, so Run to End Poverty and Imagine in particular, in order to make up their fundraising, but an overall decrease in chapter and city network fundraising. And you can see this articulated here a little bit in a little bit more detail, or in a little bit more sharp contrast of that dramatic increase in allocation of money from national platforms and national campaigns to chapter revenue. University support going down a little bit from 5 years ago, but all the other chapter fundraising kind of dropping off quite dramatically this year. And we have some questions as to what's happening there. So what prioritization decisions on time are happening? How strategic are they? What are we doing also in terms of sending signals from a national level that's resulting in some of that? And really, what we just want to do right now, and I know this conversation has already been kicked off. Mika's been doing a great job of that, who's joined the team just a few months ago, has already started kicking that conversation off. But I think the AGM is also a good time to put this into contrast and look at the entire year and get numbers behind it to realize what it's resulted in. This is also sort of the first year that we've seen a decline in the total amount of money we're raising through the national campaigns in a few years. And so we're asking some questions about this. And so we're asking some questions. Is there increasing dependency by chapters and city networks on national campaigns, and what does that mean? And so how do we think about that? How do we understand it better? We have some questions as to what caused the reduction, particularly in this Imagine campaign as compared to the past. So is it the external environment that everyone and their brother is running a peer-to-peer campaign, whether it's Movember or every other run or what have you? Is it that we put more effort behind Run to End Poverty, and so by the time we came to Imagine, people were peer-to-peer fundraised out? And should we be thinking about that, and maybe thinking about whether Run to End Poverty is something that we kind of tailor more towards an external type of fundraiser versus other platforms towards more an internal EWBer type of fundraiser? So we're asking some questions about that. But there is this reality that we have in front of us, which is that the overall amount of untied fundraising by chapters and city networks and the network overall that has gone to fund the overall resources of the organization has decreased significantly this year. And so we should ask that question of how do we want to prioritize this? I personally believe when I look across chapters, if we take, when we do our venture work, we talk about doing a positive deviant analysis. So looking at all of the actors within a system, or all of, let's say, the farmers within a series of communities, and looking at one who is performing better than the rest, and using that as both a benchmarking as to what might be possible, but asking what behaviors are going on there. If we look at that in chapters, the chapter that raised the most money this year, actually don't know which one off the top of my head. This is when I wish I had Ashley here. Do you guys know? No. Raised about $60,000. And I think that that's probably possible to get to at least kind of at least $40,000 on average across the chapters, where we're quite a bit lower than that today. That's a personal belief. Perhaps you'll say that's actually not possible. But that would put us, quite a bit more dramatically higher and allow us to make some incredible investments. So the question is, what's holding us back, and what are the types of investments that we need to make, both collectively of everybody in this room, and also how can we best support that from national level, either staff or distributed teams or what have you. Finally, the only thing that you don't have in your book is a little bit about the budgeting process. I'm going to go through this very quickly because I'm conscious of time, and I'll leave it to ask questions if you have any questions about it. So as we said before, we've established a new timeline, and we've established a budgeting process that, just to be as confusing as possible, is 1 quarter offset from our fiscal year. So our budget year will start on February 1st, even though our fiscal year starts on November 1st. And that was because that was the best time for our budget year to start, when every part of the organization could budget on the same timeline. And we had to compromise, everybody had to compromise a little bit, so nobody gets the optimal time. But we thought that actually optimized the sweet spot of everything. So it'll begin February 1st. And what we did this year, or what we've done, and I'll just kind of show you the answer, is we established kind of 3 major parts to this process. So the part of the process that we've done, the two parts that we've done so far are, one, getting every team and every venture to put together their first cut of their plans and budgets for this year. And many of you may have seen, I think all of you, if you were on various Facebook groups, would have seen and had access to the first draft of all of the team plans. And we will start to kind of also unravel, unveil some of the drafts of the team budgets or final team budgets. But what we did then is sat together mostly over Google Hangout between Mark, Boris, and I, and we looked at all of those asks, and we looked at all of the revenue projections that Beth and her team had put together, and we said, you know, what should we be approving as 3 buckets, or recommending to the board to approve as 3 broad buckets that will guide our budget. And those 3 broad buckets were, what are we investing in ventures as a whole bucket? What are we investing in the incubator or the teams as a whole bucket? And what are we setting aside as a surplus or an operating reserve? And we did this based on sort of evaluating revenue, risking, operating reserve size, the amount that was asked, the amount that was that we thought we could meet. And the result is what you see in front of us, that the board approved at a December meeting, which is the second part of the process, which was to say we've now sort of established, you know, the incubator teams plus the junior fellows will be at about 2.6 million. Venture investments of about $1 million, a reserve amount of about 200,000, and that makes up the base revenue amount of 3.9 million roughly that we've established, which is still fairly conservative. So we're quite confident that we'll be able to bring in that $3.9 million as an organization. That excludes conference, it excludes venture-generated revenue, so our ventures are now generating revenue on their own from selling of services. It excludes chapter local expenses, all of which we're just estimating here will bring us to $5 million. We don't have a lot of visibility on that. But what those 3 buckets do is they give us a way to now make much more granular decisions about what every team and venture should get. And this is where we're having some of the conversations over the coming 4 weeks as an office around what those decisions are going to be made. The strategy and investment team is making decisions around ventures. The executive team, in conversation with the whole office, is going to be making decisions between the various different parts of the organization outside of ventures. And by the end of January, or really early in February, we'll have a final budget that we'll bring to the board for approval in March, but we'll make available quite a bit before then, even to the, to the network to see and to look at and to understand. And this presentation, which I went through here very rapidly, this presentation is something that we're going to make available after this AGM, where you'll have an opportunity to take a look at this and ask some more detailed questions online or by phone or whatever way you'd like to. So that is the finances in as brief as I could figure out how to do it.
Thanks a lot, George. And thanks also to the entire executive team and to Anna as our new network team leader. So thanks to George, Boris, Mark, and Anna. Thank you very much. Get me fixed up here? Yeah. Just for those of you who this may be the first AGM, maybe I should have told you this at the beginning. You really have to buckle up. There's a lot of content. It's probably the longest AGM that you'll ever experience if you have interactions with other not-for-profits. The amount of content that we put in our AGM is maybe uncharacteristic for most organizations, but we recognize that, for almost all of you, this is your best opportunity to really understand the inner workings of EWB. And so it really is our attempt to try and provide maximum exposure to what's going on, to the plan, to the performance, and maximum transparency on how the organization is performing. So some of you I know have seen many of these. You were well prepared for it, but maybe that's something I should have told you in the beginning. We are going to try, and maybe we'll get to the Q&A part. Probably we're looking at 9:30, or maybe perhaps a little bit later, just to because we do have a fair number of things to still get through. So you can help me get through these things. We have to formally approve the 2012 audited financial statements and also approve the auditors. The motion for approval of the 2012 audited financial statements I will make on behalf of Marilyn Forrestal, who is our treasurer. And because this motion essentially comes from a board-approved committee, it doesn't actually require a seconder. So if I could invite any discussion before I ask for the final vote. This is an opportunity for you to ask questions about the financial statements. But I would also say that you have a fairly comprehensive report in front of you, and even after this meeting, talking to any member of the executive team or the board around the budget details, we're very happy to have continued discourse on the matter. So, is there anyone who has a particular question this time about the audited financial statements? Okay, then I'd like to call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the 2012 audited financial statements, which I would argue are probably the best financial statements we've ever had as an organization, please raise your cards. How's that for assaulting the vote, right? So, thank you. Anyone abstaining? Do we have one abstainer? Yes, no? It's okay. You can do it. Anyone not in favor of the motion? Motion passed. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to appointment of the auditors. This is something that is a formality that we engage in every year. It's part of our bylaws that we approve the auditors for the coming year. Deloitte & Touche is and has been our auditor now for a number of years. The board believes their work to be a very high quality. They've been excellent partners through the years, and in fact, and this isn't always the case, we've had relatively good consistency and continuity with the audit team and with the lead auditor. So the board is able to get sort of an independent perspective on how well we're doing relative to last year and relative to the year before. So it's great. And again, I echo George's appreciation for Marilyn Forrestal's guidance, and in particular, Ashley Hardle, who is just an absolute rock star, even according to our auditor, right? So I think we should applaud Ashley again, even though I know she got earlier recognition. But to hear that from your auditors is pretty incredible. So with that preamble, I'd like to ask somebody to make the following motion. Be it resolved that Deloitte & Touche LLP is named as the auditors for the organization for fiscal year 2013. Can I have someone make a motion? Can you just yell your name? Heather Murdoch, did you get a Mary? Yep. Can I have a seconder? Elliot? Got it? I'll help you. Okay, all those in favor of that motion? Anyone opposed or abstaining? Are you abstaining or opposing? Abstaining? Fair enough. Opposed? Abstaining. 2 abstaining? 3? Oh, this orange, right? Okay. Anyone opposed? I think I asked. Okay, motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay, with that bit of business, we're now moving on to one of the more exciting events of the evening, which is the process that we go through for elected directors. And to conduct that process, I'd like to call on Courtney Edwards, who's going to guide us through it and talk about the nominees and give them an opportunity to present to you this evening prior to the vote.
Okay, so this is an exciting part of the evening for all of us. And a few years ago, we had decided to have 3 elected board members in place of 2. So the current 3 are Josh Van Wyck, myself, and Greg. And this is Greg's final evening as a member of the board of directors, as our elected director. So I'd like to just take a moment now to just appreciate Greg and for the time that he spent on the board. I just asked him to come up here, so now he's a little upset with me, I think. So Greg has been on the...
still want me to translate?
Yeah, yes. So Greg has been on the board as an elected director for 3 years now. He was on just a little bit before I came on, and he's been an excellent contribution to the board. He provides a really neat insight into kind of the professional world, both outside of EWB and also as an active member of the city network wherever life has taken him. He's been great in helping me to better understand the role of the board and myself on the board. And he's also just been really committed to connect with members throughout his time on the board, which is a challenging thing to do when your life is shifting and you're not always in the same place and can't identify with a chapter. So he's a great role model for any of us who have left university and are looking for ways to connect. So I'd just like to take a moment to thank Greg. And now I will enlist him for support as we bring in elected directors. I wasn't totally lying. So we have 5 fantastic candidates who are running for the board this year for election, which is great. Fantastic. 5 amazing individuals who all bring different experience. It's a great situation for us to be in, to know that there are 5 people who are willing to commit to, which I often say, but it's the longest commitment you can make in this organization. It's 3 years, and we have 5 people who are stepping up to do that. So the process for this is we'll have each of them come up and share 2 minutes about kind of their experience or what they can bring to the board. And I'd like you to really reflect on these last 2 days and also just your experiences in the organization and think strategically about where we're moving and what we need in leadership and thought leadership at a board level. So really try and think about, for each of these individuals, what they're bringing for where we're moving as an organization.
So, at first, you said... Non, en premier. Donc, on va passer à la partie excitante de la soirée, évidemment, les élections du nouveau directeur élu sur le conseil d'administration. Donc, comme Courtney expliquait, on est 3 directeurs élus avec des mandats de 3 ans. Et on est très chanceux. Ce soir, on a 5 candidats vraiment qui représentent l'ensemble de la diversité, la profondeur de l'organisation. C'est vraiment une chance d'avoir autant d'éléments de grande valeur comme ça. Malheureusement, il faut en choisir un. Et donc, on va leur donner chacun 2 minutes très précises pour se présenter. Et ensuite de ça, on va passer au vote.
Okay. So as I mentioned, each of the candidates will have 2 minutes to present, and let's make sure we show them a lot of love afterwards, because this is courageous to stand on the stage and share your heart and where you'd like to see this organization go. So let's make sure we show them a ton of love after each of them have shared, and maybe right now, just to make sure that
Great board. Okay. So to start, Josh, can you time? Sorry, do you have a device? Okay. So I'll invite Daniel Boland up first. You do have all of the bios in front of you as a reminder, so you can use those as you go along or review them afterwards. You'll have a couple minutes before you vote. Daniel, thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Dan, and I'm standing in front of you to sit on the board of directors because I'm a governance geek. I started my EWB engagement at UBC with the global engineering team, and we were working with professors and administrators and students to try to bring them all to the table and try to share ideas so we could all move towards that path that we wanted to move forward with. When I went over to overseas with the governance and rural infrastructure team, I was doing much the same thing, trying to bring people to the table and share those ideas so that we can make those objectives move forward. And now I'm asking for your vote to move and do that now with the Board of Directors for Engineers Without Borders. And the reason for that is because I have a deep belief and passion that when you have everyone at the table and you have all the opinions at the table, then you make a better decision, you have a better outcome. And when there's conversations missing or there's voices that aren't heard, then it hurts everybody. And I think I'm pretty passionate about transparency and accountability. It's the two things that I really pushed for in governance and rural infrastructure. And it's because that's the way of bringing voices in. And I think if we can do that, that's what's going to bring... sorry, let me go back a step. Oh, man. So I'd like to represent all of you, the venture leaders, the chapters out there, the chapter members, the professional and the student. I'd like to represent the African program staff, the JFs and the return JFs. If we can bring those voices to the table, then I think we'll really get a better outcome. And that's what's going to drive that cohesion in the organization that we've been able to talk a lot about this weekend. So with that, I think I'll just leave it at that. But thanks for your time and thanks for listening.
Okay, and now we'll hear from Andrew Clark.
Bonsoir mes amis, and good evening friends. Je m'appelle Andrew Clark, je suis un membre de la section de l'Université de Calgary, un RGF de Zambie, et un membre d'ISF passionné. I'd like to share a comment I heard last night. One of our new members, attending her first conference, said, "I seem to have lost my pessimism." And she said it sort of like it was a set of car keys that she had just absentmindedly set down and just without thinking walked off and lost. And she didn't seem too concerned, though, so we didn't help her look for it. This comment encapsulates some of the magic that is EWB, that by coming together, investing in each other, and courageously committing, we can help create the 2036 that we've been talking about. And this optimism, this magic, it's important. It's something that I believe in strongly and want to see flourish and grow. But it is all supported by the practical realities of good governance, sound financial practices, and an environment that supports our unique culture. I've been asked if I'm running on a specific platform. J'ai des questions que je voudrais explorer, comme la définition d'un membre, la satisfaction long terme des employés d'ISF, et les valeurs de nos sponsors. However, the governance of EWB is a complex system, and it would be naive to think that I had the right answers from the outside. So, I'm not running on a platform, but rather with some key promises. If elected, I promise to strive to represent the long-term wishes of the network and Dorothy in all decisions. I promise to work to maintain the transparency of the board and improve connection to the network. And above all, I promise to dream big and work hard to help build our dreams of 2036. Merci.
Maintenant, je vais inviter Maxime Fortin à partager un peu.
Donc, bonsoir tout le monde. Est-ce que vous allez bien? Oui? Parfait, parfait. Not too tired yet? No? That's good, OK. Donc, je me présente ce soir sur le board. Donc, je suis en fait un peut-être on peut commencer à dire un ancien d'ISF, ça fait plus de 6 ans maintenant que je suis dans ISF. J'étais dans la section ISF Laval durant 4 ans, puis j'ai touché un petit peu à tout. Donc j'étais président durant 2 ans, Return Jeff au Burkina Faso, puis tout ça, ça m'a donné une bonne perspective vraiment pour apporter ces défis-là qui sont vécus au quotidien par les sections sur le board. So as I said, I come in with about 6 years of experience in the organization. There's still a lot to learn, but I feel like I can bring that chapter perspective to the board in a nice way. On the other hand, I work now as an engineer for a consulting development firm called Cowater. And basically what we do is that we're specialized in large-scale development programs, working with the World Bank and the AFDB and other international donors like that. And I want to find ways to leverage that network, that experience for AWB as we're moving into this new venture model. So some examples of that include the work that we've been doing in the last few months, Louis and I. So we're looking to include the work of Voto, their phone survey systems, in a study that we're doing in Accra to do a water and sanitation needs assessment in the peri-urban communities that will actually guide $150 million of water and sanitation investments in Accra. So yeah, that's actually a lot of fingers. And so I think that we can provide together by working together and learning together way to scale up those EWB opportunities in new ways and also bring that perspective from the private, the consulting sector. So to wrap things up, I come from the chapter side of things. I worked overseas with EWB, so I bring that perspective to the board. And also I'm trying to bring that new perspective from the consulting sector into our governance structure and as we're transitioning into the venture model. So that's what I'm running on. And I say you good luck because we've got some good candidates. And yeah, thank you very much. Thanks. Okay.
And now we'll hear from Ben Russell.
Bonsoir et merci. Juste en avant de commencer en anglais, je veux vous dire que je suis vraiment désolé que je ne peux pas faire ce discours en français aussi. So for me, I'd like to share, first of all, my story about how I became involved in EWB. It was about exactly 4 years ago at the 2009 conference in Mississauga. And I spent what felt like all of that conference following around Mark Hemsworth. I asked him a ton of questions. I went to all his sessions, and I just learned so much. And for me, at that time, it was awesome. But the most important learning that came out of that was what I learned about EWB. I learned a lot of things, but in particular, I learned how open this organization is to questions and to critical thought from anybody, including someone who had only done 1 semester at university. Later on, Mark also shared with me one of his motivations for joining EWB, becoming an APS, and going to Zambia, which was a desire to take the road less traveled. And that influenced me over the course of my time in university to get a variety of experiences. After first year, I worked in a research lab learning about hypothesis testing and the iterative process in scientific research. After second year, I went to Ghana and worked in a venture that we just said goodbye to earlier today, the work with the agricultural colleges in Ghana. In third year, I was in a very different and similarly difficult environment, working on a drilling rig near Jasper. And this past summer, I was in coastal China, learning about China from my Chinese friends, learning about shipbuilding and trying to help them learn a little bit about the West. I believe that these experiences demonstrate my intense curiosity and willingness to pursue learning wherever I can and question things. I believe these traits, as well as what I've outlined in my written profile, make me a strong candidate to represent you on the board over the coming 3 years. And therefore, I humbly ask for your vote, and most of all, I thank you for being here and participating in this AGM. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
And finally, I'll invite Annalise Chavez to share her thoughts.
The paper reads, "Here's the hot new trend. Western consumerism will bring poverty to an end. Sign me up. How can I help? And where do I start? I've got money to spare and an enthusiastic heart. But wait, stop. Should I be a bit more curious? Should I question good intentions, drop complacency, get furious? I'm not talking about taking up inquisition with a magnifying glass and a red pen. I am talking about genuine, critical thinking. An analysis of the pros and the cons, and for the feelers in the room, how about we check in with our hearts? Il y a une voile sur notre pays, mais des gens trop confortables pour l'enlever. Nous voici ISF, prenons position. On tire sur ce voile, implique la jeunesse et on pose des questions. EWB has ignited a spark, testing my concept of a classroom, perception of an engineer, and the limitations of a ballot box. The embrace of uncertainty in this room is uplifting, and I'm proud to be part of a group who celebrates failures with a party rather than a burning. The act of burning our mission statement signified recognition of our daunting work and undying ambition. It was a brave way of saying we don't know, but that won't stop us. It reminds us that GARI or ABC might not be the right approach, but we're not about to veto an idea like VODO without giving it a fair chance. We have a long road ahead of us with no time to delay, so let's hold true to the letter of the day. C is for courage to stand up for what you believe in, pour la curiosité de découvrir la potentiel de l'Afrique, for compassion towards those you don't even know but are reaching out a caring hand to. So let's celebrate finding the courage to embrace our curiosity about this world, and let's get out there and show Dorothy some compassion.
Let's give another round to all of these incredible candidates. So what we'll do now is give you a few moments to reflect on what you've heard. You can cast your vote. Please make sure that you mark it clearly. And then there'll be volunteers who are coming around to collect those ballots, and we'll continue on with the rest of the meeting. Oh, sorry. Hold it up when you're finished. You can fold your ballot and hold it up in your hand, and someone will come collect it.
I want to recognize our outgoing board members. Brian Schofield, who was not here tonight, has been with the board for 8 years. Don Thurston, who's an outgoing board member, who has asked to say a few remarks at the end of our proceedings tonight. Don always likes the last word, so we're going to give it to him. Don has been with us for 8 years. Jacques, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Jacques Guérin has been with us for 6 years and is leaving the board, and I'll ask Jacques if you'd like to just say a word or two. And then, as Courtney mentioned, Gregoire is also going to be leaving the board after his elected term of 3 years. So all the outgoing board members, I have a few more things to say. We've got a little treat for you after I give Jacques and Gregoire an opportunity to speak. But please give them a round of applause. And Jacques, would you like to come up and say a few words?
D'abord, vous remercier tous du privilège que j'ai eu de servir.
Hang on.
Un, deux. Ah, ça marche, ça? Ça marche, n'est-ce pas?
No. Now try it again.
Oui. Alors, je veux d'abord vous remercier tous du privilège que j'ai eu de servir cette organisation pendant les 6 dernières années. The other day, someone asked me what was my most memorable moment on the board. The answer was very quick. It's the conferences. Every year, the battery charger, you come out of this so full of the energy and the great dynamism of this organization. And I'll be always very grateful for that, and I'll remember that for a very long time. Alors, merci beaucoup. C'est un grand privilège.
well deserved. Gregoire, we've got a few more things to say about Jacques and Don, but I'd like to give Gregoire an opportunity to speak and just note the fact that it's really been a pleasure working with Gregoire. I really want to underscore the importance of the elected directors on the board. They give as much as they get. And Gregoire has always brought very, very valuable perspectives because of his history in coming up through chapters and networks and his experiences abroad. He really has been a fantastic resource. And, you know, many of us on the board don't have the experience that many of you have had within the EWB organization. We look at it from a different perspective, and that's good. But that check and balance and that constant reference back to the network and back to the membership is what people like Gregoire and our other elected directors do such a great job of. So, Greg, would you like to say a few words?
Merci beaucoup, Shane. Merci au conseil d'administration et merci à vous tous qui m'avez donné la chance il y a 3 ans à St. John's de m'intégrer dans une partie assez unique, assez spéciale de l'organisation. C'était vraiment un honneur, un privilège de pouvoir m'impliquer comme très peu de membres d'ISF peuvent le faire et faire bénéficier l'organisation dans son ensemble. Par contre, je me sens aussi très privilégié de pouvoir continuer mon implication chez ISF parce que je suis encore seulement dans l'enfance de mon engagement et de pouvoir ramener cette expérience-là dans les sections et auprès des membres en général avec qui je vais pouvoir interagir au cours de plusieurs années à venir. Merci et à très bientôt.
So now comes that moment where I trust IT. And thank you very much, Gregoire. We have a little video that some folks have contributed to, and we're rolling it right now.
So the EWB experience in terms of changing my life is not so much an issue of change as it is a reinforcement of something that is universal in my thinking, which is that we're all in this together. We have a big job to do. There's no end of the challenges, but the EWB has come a long way to making that vision happen in my mind, and I think has influenced the people around me by the activities that I've been involved in and listening to me talk.
ISF a changé ma vie d'au moins 2 façons. D'abord, je me suis enrichi du dynamisme, de l'énergie, de l'intelligence de toute une génération de jeunes ingénieurs et d'étudiants en génie. Et deuxièmement, ça me force à regarder vers l'avenir plutôt que le passé. J'ai 74 ans, je ne me rendrai sans doute pas à 2036, mais qu'est-ce que je vais faire d'utile dans les 10 prochaines années? Voici ce que cette conférence me force à réfléchir. Et j'en suis bien content.
Jacques and Don, you are directly responsible for changing my life. I was supposed to be a rocket science engineer, and because of you, I'm making something that is much more meaningful with my time. So thank you.
Wow, how has EWB changed my life? How has EWB not changed my life? It's the organization I've been affiliated with the longest by a lot. I mean, it's shaped my values, it's become my community, it's what I do and have been doing for so many hours of my days and my weeks. Don, Jacques, I can't thank you enough for having believed in the organization when it was so young and for having shaped it. You will be sincerely missed. Thanks so much.
ISF, c'est une place où j'ai rencontré des gens exceptionnels, c'est une place où qui m'a ouvert des dizaines d'opportunités pour travailler pour et avec Dorothée, mais c'est surtout une place où j'ai pu grandir, où j'ai pu en fait me découvrir, où j'ai pu être moi-même, avec mes forces, avec mes faiblesses, avec mes passions, et merci pour ça, merci Jacques, merci Dan.
So Engineers Without Borders for me is not just about making thoughtful change in the world, but also about building into people who then go on to so many different areas of the world to create lasting change. And I want to thank you both for not only building into the organization, but building into me as a person. Je veux vous remercier pour votre leadership, pour votre amitié, pour tout ce que vous donnez à cet organisme. I thank you for all you've given to Engineers Without Borders and to me personally, and I wish you only the best as you continue to help shape the lives of young leaders and the world.
Hi, Don and Jacques. Just want to say a big thank you for all the effort and support that you've put into EWB throughout the years. For me, 9 years ago, when I made the choice to no longer pursue the path of electrical engineering and to go to the Philippines and work on the Scala project, I had no idea that it would be the beginning of what has been and still is an amazing journey. And it's thanks to the effort and the incredible energy and talent and passion that you've put into EWB to continue to shape it as a vehicle that I've been able to chart my own course. So thank you so much.
Ingénieurs sans frontières, pour moi, c'est une force incroyable de changement et d'inspiration. Et cette force-là, malheureusement, elle est principalement invisible. Ce sont des gens dans l'arrière-scène qui font chaque jour leurs petits gestes. Donc, merci à tous ces gens-là, particulièrement à Jacques et à Don qui quittent leur fonction sur le conseil d'administration aujourd'hui. Thank you very much, Don and Jacques, for everything you've done behind the scene all those years in growing EWB in what it is and what it will become.
I feel so lucky to be part of such an amazing organization, and one of the things that I realized through EWB is the power to invest in people, in their talents, to create change in the world. Donc Jacques, merci beaucoup.
I remember back when I was in second year of university as the VP Finance and Fundraising of the University of Alberta chapter, and the huge amount of relief and happiness that I had when the support that we received from Don Thurston helped us get that much closer to being able to send our JFs overseas and carry out the rest of our work that year as a chapter, and it was just great and hugely appreciated.
EWB has changed my life by opening my eyes to what's possible when thousands of passionate and talented individuals are working to change the world. Don, Jacques, for all your leadership, insight, mentorship and passion, thank you.
Je crois que la majorité des gens ne veulent pas mal faire. Ils le font par accident. Ils le font parce qu'ils ne sont pas conscients de l'impact de leurs actions sur les gens, sur les sociétés. Je crois qu'avec un peu de sensibilisation, ça peut changer. Ça peut rendre les gens conscients. Ça peut les amener à faire des choses différemment. Changer de comportement. Par contre, plusieurs finissent par se rendre compte que tout ça est un peu trop compliqué. Plus qu'on est conscient, plus qu'on se rend compte de la complexité du monde dans lequel on vit. Et c'est là que plusieurs abandonnent. Et moi, j'ai grandi dans un monde où on m'a souvent dit que c'est bien beau toute mon implication, toutes mes ambitions pour changer le monde, mais qu'un jour, moi aussi, j'allais devenir désillusionnée, que j'allais abandonner et décider de me fermer les yeux sur tout ça. Grâce à ISF, j'ai ouvert les yeux. J'ai ouvert les yeux sur la complexité des enjeux humains, sur la complexité de ma propre personne, sur la complexité des relations humaines. Grâce à Jacques Gérin, je sais aujourd'hui que c'est possible de vivre sa vie sans jamais abandonner, sans devenir désillusionné. Grâce à son exemple, je n'abandonnerai jamais et je continuerai toujours à travailler pour changer le monde, pour le rendre meilleur.
I want people to appreciate the incredible impact that both of you have had on the EWB organization. Jacques, with your incredible insights and experience as it relates to international development and field work, you have always brought us back to Dorothy. In any of our conversations, you always ask the question, what would Dorothy think of this? Is this in the best interest of Dorothy? And I thank you for that. And Don, it was your belief in the EWB organization in the years well before it had become organizationally credible that really contributed to EWB's rise to a respected NGO.
Monsieur Jacques Gérin, le Jacques Gérin,
Thank you so much, Jacques. I'll miss your involvement with EWB, and I know many, many others will as well. But you're leaving a lot of people with a lot of full hearts. So thanks very much for that. Don Thurston, man of few words, man of little emotion, but man of giant, giant heart. If I was there, I would be wearing a big 10-gallon cowboy hat. And in the expression of our dear mutual friend, Mr. Levi Gertz, I would say, Don Thurston, thank you. Let's ride till dawn, amigos. What a great, great ride it's been. I hope it continues to be.
Let's hear it for Don and Jacques. Now we've got some gifts that we're presenting to them for their service. We also have a gift for Gregoire, but I tell you, our outgoing directors have done a lot for this organization, so.
C'est très touchant, ça. J'espère qu'on peut en avoir une copie.
No problem. Copies of those videos were really meant as gifts to you. We felt that was probably the best thing we could do for both of you, was to remind you of the many lives that you have had such a dramatic impact. George, I think you wanted to say a few words as well. Welcome that.
Very brief to Jacques and Don. It's, Shane said it really well in the video. We weren't a credible organization when we approached Jacques and Don to be on the board, and we were in our infancy. And there's one thing about getting behind an organization that is established and that has successes behind it, and there's another thing getting behind an idea that is barely formed and leaders who are barely formed, and deciding that you're still going to bet on them and say that you're all in. And I can say that without individuals like yourselves, and without the two of you in particular, I don't know that we would have always had the confidence to be able to drive and grow this organization. And I know that you've put that confidence in my heart so many times, each of you individually, and so many others within this organization. And you've done it by saying that you're in, and you're going to help grow this organization, and you're going to put your name and your reputation and everything else, all your wisdom, all your years, all your networks, every financial resource that you could muster as well behind this organization. And you're a big part in making it happen. So thanks.
Okay, I promised this was going to be a pretty heavy AGM. We have a few kind of special discussion items, and one of those is going to be by Simon Charon. Is Simon close by? So we have a motion that was supplied earlier to the board. So we're going to give Simone an opportunity to talk about what her motion is. And then at that time, I'm going to call for any other motions from the floor. We don't have any other motions that have been submitted. And as Simone makes her way up to the stage, I will say that I am aware that there was some discussion about motions to amend our bylaws or change our bylaws. And I mean, we are absolutely open to considering anything that membership has to suggest. But the process for actual bylaw changes does require a board resolution, and then the board takes an approved bylaw or a proposed bylaw change to the membership, and the membership. So we probably need a bit longer process if there is particular bylaw changes that you want the board to consider. But by all means, you can make a motion for us to consider those. You can approach us afterwards, and we'll do so anyway. Or you can table questions in the Q&A session. So, Simone, are you able to speak to us about your motion? Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm actually speaking on behalf of Caitlin Finner tonight, just to let you know. She wasn't able to be in attendance this evening. All right, so the subject of this motion is to put forward if EWB should consider joining the Canadian Council for International Cooperation. So I'll just give you a quick background on what CCIC is and what they do. So the Canadian Council of International Cooperation is, in quotes, a coalition of Canadian voluntary a coalition of Canadian voluntary sector organizations working globally to achieve sustainable human development. CCIC seeks to end global poverty and to promote social justice and human dignity for all. So one of the major objectives of CCIC is to work to enable conversations and coordinations between key Canadian development organizations, such as the Aga Khan Foundation, Canada, Amnesty International, the Canadian section, Canada World Youth, the Canadian Red Cross, Oxfam Canada, and the World Universities Service of Canada, amongst others. Moving on to why should EWB consider joining this membership. So in the past, EWB has considered CCIC membership on an annual basis. However, it hasn't been considered for a few years now, and it hasn't been discussed in the strategic planning process. EWB has changed significantly as an organization since CCIC membership was last considered, with major events such as the burning of our mission statement and the articulation of a new vision. And finally, EWB is a very unique organization, and this membership could provide an opportunity to influence and improve collaboration between within the Canadian development sector. So may I pose the motion?
Yes.
Great. Be it resolved that the corporation consider obtaining membership in the Canadian Council for International Cooperation, CCIC, during the corporation's strategic planning in January and February of 2013.
Merci, Simone. So what happens here is anyone can make a motion, such as Simone has done, and as long as there's a seconder, that's subject to a vote and discussion. So is there a seconder for Simone's motion? At the back there, can you state your name? Mary, did you get it? Again, sorry? Kane Williams. Got it? Okay. Any discussion of this motion? Yes, sir.
On the sheet that was handed out, it has a few questions listed there. I was wondering if there could be any more use of floor line.
Yeah, please, for any of these questions and approaching the mics, we've got to get into the swing of things here because there'll probably be a lot of mic action later on. So as you approach the mic, state your name so Mary can get it for the record and proceed.
My name is Alex Sarita. On the sheet that was handed out for the CCIC motion, there's a few questions on the bottom, and I was just wondering if there's any more insight or as to those questions in particular. So I think they're important, and I just don't know the answers to them.
So, Simone or Georges, do you want to speak to that? I think you've posed certain questions that you want the board to consider in its deliberations. Is that appropriate? So these are questions that that the board needs to consider in its deliberations. Simone, would you like to? Is that okay? Or it's your motion.
Thanks, Alex. Absolutely. I should have mentioned at the beginning that this paper was on your tables and that these questions are very important questions for the board to consider should the motion be considered.
Any further questions? Any further questions? Yep.
I actually have, I guess it would be a series of questions.
Non, s'il vous plaît.
What's that?
Your name, please.
Oh, Mahmoud Khattab.
Jeez. How'd that work?
Do you want me to spell it out?
Did you get it, Mary?
Last name Khattab. What's that? Khattab is last name. Good to go? First name is Mahmoud, Mahmoud. All right. So I'm assuming that the reason that it was brought up every year in the past is because the membership is renewed annually, correct? No.
I don't think we've ever been a member, so this is, we've never been a member, so this is something that Simon is proposed that we consider to be a member of.
Okay, so it was brought up several times in the past and we never voted on it. And we never voted to
Vote
be a
on it
member.
now.
Okay. I guess that answers all my questions.
Okay. Merci.
Oh,
Is there
no, wait. Why did we stop voting on it? And why is it being brought up again?
I'll do a dumb look, so.
Quick.
Yeah.
So it's never come up at an AGM. We have had discussions as a management. I don't even know if it's ever come to the board, really. The board was never in a position to really discuss things like this. As a management, there are a variety sort of reasons, both sort of our involvement, our size, our financial capacity, and our belief on whether or not we could provide value to CCIC or could get value from CCIC that caused us to whenever we considered it or to think about it, to not become a member. As Simona said, a lot of that context has changed, and it's, I think, time for a good look at it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Yeah, I just want to ask a couple of the questions, maybe of the board that are in here that haven't been asked. Like, what kind of cost is there to Engineers Without Borders? And the other questions that are in here, like, what kind of restrictions or impact on EWB would
Did I get your name?
Michael Noonan.
Did you get that, Mary? Proceed.
Okay, so, yeah, so what kind of cost is there, and what kind of impact would it have on us, you know?
Right, thanks.
So there's a direct membership fee that would cost us somewhere in the neighborhood of between $15,000 and $20,000 a year. So it's not insubstantial. In addition to that, there's also any cost that we put in terms of our participation in CCIC, of course, in terms of volunteer time or staff time. In terms of restrictions, there's a code of ethics, but it's a matter of formality, frankly. We adhere to everything within that code of ethics already. So it would be formally adopting that code of ethics at an AGM. That's basically it. I think there's lots of strategic considerations, which I won't speak to now, but certainly we can make available as we sort of, if this motion is successful, as we go through and make available to a broader audience.
Okay, we have one more question. I didn't say it was the last question. Might be.
Tajinder Jita. Man, I can't even pronounce my own name.
That's okay. You can help yourself by spelling it. Sorry, you know, I get cheeky after like 9:30. So, do you notice the change? Right? I'm getting ready for the Q&A. So.
Yeah, I'm brand new to the organization, so part of my ignorance. But by what process will this happen? Is it first it's being posed to the board, and the board agrees to it, and then the membership votes on it, or what is the process?
No, I mean, you have a voice as members. You can ask the board to consider anything, and it's more powerful. Obviously, we're always listening to you, but it's more powerful when you come to an AGM and put forward a motion, and there's a record, and obviously the board is accountable to answer to the membership. So you're simply requesting the board to consider it. At our next board meeting, if we've had the opportunity to do the appropriate amount of research and consultation, we might decide to just do it, right? Or we might not. And if you're not happy with that, then you can make that known through the course of the year, and you can bring another motion, right? So, can we get the spelling of your last name, TJ? Sorry.
Jupiter Hotel Echo Echo Tango Alpha.
Did you get that? Wow, that's a long flippin' name. Say that in French? En français, s'il vous plaît. Okay, any more? Yes, sir. You're going to run up to the mic and give your name. Nah, you're going to run up to the mic, then give your name. Okay, yeah. Oh, that's dirty. That's a dirty trick, eh? Get you right up to the mic.
Talk again.
Try it again.
Try again.
Hi. My name is Lin, and my simple question is, what is
Whoa. Slow down. We're writing down names here.
Ling? My name, Lin. And what is
Did you get it, Mary? Got it. Okay. Thank you.
And what is the relationship between the CCIC and the CIDA, CIDA, Canadian International Development Agency, and what will be the strategic partnership with the possible strategic relationship with the CIDA and even the World Bank Group to more smoothly to get involved and engage to the international development. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question.
Brief answer is that it's complicated. So I would say at times there's a bit of a combative relationship between CCIC and CIDA. CIDA used to fund CCIC and recently pulled that funding. Mainly, I would interpret for political reasons, exclusively for political reasons, and on other things, they're actually quite collaborative. So, for example, some of you may have heard of the Paris Declaration and Paris Agenda on Aid Effectiveness. There was a follow-up to that, which was really what are NGOs and civil society's engagement with the Paris Agenda, which was the Accra Agenda, and for example, CCIC and CIDA were close collaborators and leaders within Canada was leader within the movement to talk about that. So it's a complicated relationship, it's a back and forth, and probably is one of the considerations that we'll talk about when or if we strategically move in that direction.
Thank you, George. Any other questions? Wade? And by the way, I did mean to mention this in all the joy at the end of the video, but Wade's work in putting together that video.
Ward.
Sorry, Ward. Oh my God.
It's spelled with a Q and a K.
Yeah, I know. See, I told you I have my moments after 9:30. Sorry, Ward. Ward's work in putting together the video over the course of just the last probably 48 hours, if not 36 hours, and Tristan's editing of that video, I just thought was amazing. So thanks, Ward, for standing up. So I remembered to thank you.
It was more Tristan.
Now you may ask your question.
So my name is Ward Alsop, and this mic is very tall.
You're just rubbing it in.
The primary benefit that I see on the sheet of paper that was passed out speaks to EWB's ability to influence and improve coordination within the Canadian development sector. I wonder if we actually need to be a member of CCIC to do that, or whether being a member actually potentially limits our ability to do that. And being a communications director, I also wonder what the impact is to the EWB brand in terms of being a member of this organization. How's it perceived both within the sector and within the public? Does it help us or hurt us? And I don't have the answers to these questions. I don't know if anybody on the stage does. Maybe it's just something to consider as we go through it.
I think these are great points. I think there are things that we need to consider in our deliberations, right? I don't know if does anyone want to speak to that? We're good? Thank you, Ward.
Once again, it's Ward.
Ward, thank you, Ward. Thank you, Ward. Sorry, Ward. Je suis désolé, Ward. Je suis très désolé, Ward. Bonsoir, Ward. Merci, Ward. Asseyez-vous, Ward. French is starting to flow. Are there any other questions? Where are we? Questions? Are there any more questions? Okay. Wow, this is like Robert's Rules in Order here. I'm calling for a vote. All those in favor of the motion on the floor, please raise your voting cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you. Any abstaining from this motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Something like 16. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Okay. Thank you very much. Motion carried. Democracy in action. Yay! Merci, Simon. Okay. At this time, I would call for any other motions from the floor. If not, we've got two presentations lined up, one on fundraising and one on membership policy development. Any other motions from the floor? Okay, c'est bon. Josh, let me just set this up. Josh is going to present. No, you can come. You can stand right beside me, right? Yeah. Josh is going to present some of our deliberations around membership. There's been a lot of activity within the whole EWB community debating the membership issue. And so we want to be very careful, especially around policy development, as it relates to membership and as it relates to what Beth is going to be coming up and talking about, which is corporate fundraising. So the next two discussion items are really presenting to you some thinking around policies in these two policy areas with the hope of getting input throughout the year. And then the process would be they will probably come back to you next year to approve new policies, or we may in fact actually approve policies in the course of the year. We can do that. So no further ado, Josh Van Wyk will talk to us about membership. Thank you. Thank you. Merci, Josh.
Do I have the slide here? Oh. Amazing, okay. Bonjour tout le monde. Welcome everyone. Thanks for staying alive and energized. Can we go to the next slide? I don't know how I control. Perfect. Yes, that one. So I think that this issue is actually an incredibly relevant issue because our AGM started with the fact that there was an issue with the fact that there were a lot of people in this room who weren't members who thought they were members. So it sort of begs the question, well, what is a member anyway, and how do we define that, and why are we not doing such a good job of being clear as members ourselves? Because I personally felt really awkward when I found out that only 2/3 or 1/3 of the people in this room were actually allowed to vote at this AGM. And especially for an organization that prides itself on governance, engagement, transparency, it feels like something's maybe not quite working out there. So with that in mind, I thought it would just be good to highlight that, in my mind, membership means saying that we're in, that we're committed to this organization. And currently what that means is you're a member if you pay your $20 or your $40 annually. It's not a big amount. What it does, we'll talk about in a few minutes. But I wanted to show a slide that shows what's happened over the last couple of years. So there we go. So back in 2006, we had about 1,000 people who were members. Then we peaked up between 2007 and 2008, somewhere around 1,100, 1,200. And since that moment, we have been continually declining the number of people who've been paying members. Now, maybe that's not a big issue. Maybe it's okay that people aren't paying, because when I talked to people at chapters and when I was working at the chapters, a lot of people said, well, I don't see what the benefit is. Why should someone pay $20 to be part of this organization? I would say that there's a bit of an issue in that it's really difficult for us to communicate externally or in any of our communications how many people are actually engaged in this organization. How many members do we have? Is it the 55,000 people on our mailing list, most of whom probably have only looked at one email that was sent out? Or is it the 418 members that we currently have? Well, there's probably something really in the middle between that, and I think basically what we're trying to do, next slide please, is present an intention. The goal is that over the next year we really work on refining our definition of what it means to be a member. In my mind, it doesn't seem sufficient to say, okay, a member is someone who pays and therefore you are a member. And this was one of the conversations that came up over the last year, that there needs to be something more than that. And what we thought would make more sense, and that we want to get some feedback on and get planted in the brains of all of you is this idea that what we try and do is live this next year by seeing membership as not only paying your $20 or $40, but also taking actions towards the values of EWB. Now, for most of you, that's actually probably really easy because you're actively involved in a chapter and you're doing it all the time. What we're saying is just share that. Make that something where you talk maybe with your parents, your family. Maybe it's something where you participate in a Perspectives or an Imagine campaign and share it with your broader network. Or maybe, if you're not actively involved in a chapter or a professional network or a distributed team, you use your renewal of your membership as a way to remain engaged within the organization. So we're not actually looking to pass this right now. We're looking to make this happen in 2014 and use the next year as a way to learn how the membership is living and being members. Hopefully that's clear. Let's go to the next slide and it will come out a little bit more. So we think that we should live according to our values and that our way of tracking our engagement and our membership would be related directly to the values that we have defined because these are things that aren't going to change within the organization in the foreseeable future. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Oh, one more back. There we go. This is the English version for those of you that did not catch the French. But basically, being part of the membership and having membership means embodying the values. This is what we're putting out as an intention. Next slide. So the proposal is that you pay your annual fee and you take and share actions each year aligned with EWB's values. Next. One example of this, those of you who were here on Leadership Development Day may have heard Mayor Nenshi talk about 3 things for Calgary, and it was an invitation for every citizen in Calgary to do 3 things for Calgary. There wasn't a clear definition of what that meant, of what those 3 things should be, but the idea was that each citizen should record and share those actions and post them publicly. And I think they've had over 24,000 people actively participate in this campaign, which I think is a really interesting way of seeing how community is being built in Calgary. We would propose that we do something similar to this, but we connect it directly to the values. It gives us a chance to track what's happening within the organization a little bit more, see what values are really resonating with our membership, but also provide a mode of engagement. Next. So, I think I've gone through this already. If you're in a chapter, it's not a big change. We're just encouraging you to share more actively and also to consider doing a peer-to-peer campaign as one of the ways of having your actions and your sharing. Next. But what this means if you're outside of the network of chapters or staff is that this may be a way to maintain your engagement and to be reconnected to the organization on an annual basis. Next. So, just in case you're not as excited as I am about this, and I know it might be a little late, I think this is a really exciting opportunity to have broader engagement, to have better metrics. What else did I put up there? To have a better reflection of our network, because right now it's really difficult if you graduate from your chapter or your professional network. We actually don't know if we should email you to be invited to be involved in things. So right now you get only the broad emails, or maybe no emails. But maybe you actually want to be highly engaged in the organization, but we don't know that. So this allows us for a much more effective way and nuanced way of keeping you engaged in the organization. Also, by recording your actions and sharing them, we're going to be gathering a lot of stories. And I don't know how many of you had a chance to talk with David Hutchins, but he talked about the power of narrative and organizational narratives. And I think this is a really exciting way to build a powerful narrative. And finally, I think it's a chance for us to have much better metrics about what's going on. So what we're looking for is some feedback. I'm going to invite a small discussion now to get some initial feedback, but the reality is we're not looking for a decision until 2014. So this is an ongoing discussion. We're really hoping that the elected board members are going to be championing this, but also looking to the staff to take a leading role in gathering that feedback. Secondly, we're hoping you'll get involved in making this happen. We need someone who can create a website. There's always demand for this sort of thing. We're looking for you to try this out, to live with intention and to see if this reflects what it means to be a member. We're looking for people who are interested in refining this policy. If you are, that governance geek, then please come and talk to us, because we want to make sure that our language is clear and inclusive. Finally, I would personally be really excited if we could triple our membership, paying members by next year. It gives us a small degree of financial independence. If you're at a chapter, it means the money actually comes directly back to your chapter. So it gives your chapter more financial independence. But it also is a really good metric for us to be sharing and being an understanding. So that's what I'm proposing, and just throwing it out there. I guess now is a chance if you have any questions or comments to bring those up to the mic.
Who should they send comments to you or to Courtney?
Yeah. So if you want to send comments and you don't want to talk to me this conference, you're very welcome to send that to EWB or to the board. Our emails are all on the board. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Dustin Johnson. That's with a D. And just my initial reaction is this is a very good idea, and I'm just wondering if there's a way to implement it sooner than rather waiting an entire year before I have to approve it.
So it's a great question. Our initial hope when we were coming up with this idea was to propose to have it for this board meeting. But then the reality is that we hadn't consulted the membership at all. And as an elected board member, when this idea came up at the board meeting, I said, has anyone talked to the members? And people went, not really. I said, well, we can't let that go through as a motion right now because we need to engage the members. That's why it's phrased as an intention. The idea is that we should actually be doing this now. That what happens over the next year should actually be a reflection of what we will always do. And so we use this year to set a baseline of how we should be acting. So thank you. I'm glad that you like the idea, and I would encourage you to implement it in your life and your chapter right now. Max.
Oui. Bonjour Josh. Donc Maxime Fortin pour les minutes. Can you elaborate a little bit on what happened since the national conference in 2011? Because it's been 2 years now since that idea was proposed.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit surprised to see what we're seeing tonight in terms of what has been actually done.
Sure. I can provide a little bit of background, and I don't know if any other board members who were involved in some of that can help me out. Basically, we created a committee that spent 1.5 years looking at this issue, or just 1 year? Okay. So we had a motion that came up at the AGM, I think in 2011, that was a question about whether members should be paying the same amount of money. I believe that's what it was about. And so what was then done is that we created a committee to look at that question of exactly how do we define membership. This is a little bit different because it's not actually saying what is redefining how much people are going to pay or anything like that. We're saying we just want people to share more and make that part of being a member. This is also based on what came out of that committee. The committee was created by people, I think Sierra was on the committee. There were members from across Canada in student chapters and professional networks who did interviews and had conversations with a number of different people to try and understand what it was to be a member. What I understand of what came out of it was that basically there was a recommendation not to change the pay, the amount that people pay. There was a recommendation that on a regular basis people should be reminded to renew their membership, and that there should be a renewal email. And a lot of the other ideas that came out of it was how do we increase the number of members, not necessarily a clear definition or a restructuring of what membership might be. Correct me,
Maybe if I can just comment, I think there were some great suggestions that were put forward by the committee, but what really worried us is that
actually ask him to donate more rather than to find some new philanthropists. So increasing the amount of members is increasing our potential of donors. And once we have this big potential of donors, we can increase the amount they give every year. So it's, to me, increasing the memberships is absolutely crucial for the organization.
Great.
So I hope you guys continue this way.
Thank you. So I think maybe we'll do one last question, and then if that's okay, we'll move on and you can come and talk to me. I'm here for the rest of the time. So our other, well, Courtney unfortunately had to leave, but the new elected member will be here as well.
Ben Russell, and I just had a question about, and perhaps this is a case of me missing an email, but how is the decision, the recommendation of the committee that Shane spoke about, and the decision of the board to reject those recommendations, how is that communicated to the membership?
I wasn't at the last AGM, but George said the last AGM that was communicated. So, and the communication goes on. I mean, that's why we're talking about it now. So.
And it was only one out of a series of recommendations.
That was rejected. Yeah, so of the recommendations, I think some of them were accepted and some of them were rejected. And we can maybe make sure that linked to the conference site, we actually have we can repost those AGM notes if we need to. In fact, they should be in your handbook that has the notes of the AGM.
Okay, thank you very much, Josh, and thank you, members, for coming up and sharing your ideas. So give yourself a round of applause, and we're almost at the finish line here. So thank you for that feedback. We are one presentation away from finding out who our new elected director is. And Beth Brody is going to talk to us about something else that may also be controversial, but that's good, which is a corporate fundraising policy. And we also want to be very careful about this as well. And we will entertain a few questions. You know, it's nice that the AGM is actually getting us into the Q&A mode, which is great. But we'll entertain some questions, and then we'll continue to move through the process of the meeting to get into the more informal Q&A part of this evening. So, Beth?
Great, thanks, Shane. So I have the opportunity tonight to give you guys an update on where our corporate fundraising policy is currently at. As some of you know, we have had a corporate policy in draft form that has been floating around EWB for quite a while now, with quite a few hands have touched it, have provided feedback for us, actually drafted up an entire document. And we were hoping that by this conference we would actually be able to present you guys with a draft copy of what those guidelines or policies would actually be, especially around our corporate partnerships. But as we were actually working through this draft, we started asking more and more questions, and every time we asked a question, we ended up asking 10 more questions, and after that we ended up asking more and more and more questions, realizing that this topic is actually very controversial, it's very complicated, has a lot of complexities in it. So instead of trying to rush and get a rough draft done for you guys by this AGM, we are saying that we're going to be taking our time to really make sure we dive into this issue in the appropriate way. As I was thinking about getting up in front of you guys and talking to you about this, with my nerves kind of on edge for where this will lead, I was actually really inspired by what Frances Wesley said yesterday, and one thing that stuck with me was when she was talking about how we can't think that we are going to affect a system if we are thinking that we are outside of that system, but rather we need to understand that we are actually a player and an active player within that system as well. And for me, that was kind of a light bulb moment where it was like we realize right now with NEWB that we are going to be engaging with companies. Companies right now are enabling us to grow to where we are and enabling the work that we're doing, but we're also having a very mutual relationship back and forth with quite a few of them, engaging in conversations, diving into really deep dialogues that they are then taking back to their companies, their co-workers, and sharing the knowledge that EWB is able to impart on them as well. So we definitely are moving away from just transactional relationships. We don't want that. That isn't the main goal of our team. For those of you who have been following the fundraising team over the last year, we did change our name and change our whole mindset to become Invested Partnerships for a reason. And it really is to make sure that those relationships are beneficial to both parties, both us as well as our external partners. So steps moving forward with this, we are taking this seriously. We do want to make sure that this is a priority over the next year because we are growing very, very rapidly, whether it be the ventures that we're going to be investing in or even just the mindset of the membership right now. We do want to make sure that we take the concerns that you all have as well as the good points and the kind of encouragement and make sure that we really dive into this issue in an appropriate way. Over the next few months, we are looking to engage both our internal and external stakeholders. So that's going to be some of you guys here in this room. It's also going to be some of our corporate partners, some of our donors, some consultants for EWB who are constantly helping us to be able to engage in this topic. The reason for that is that standing here, I do not have the expertise in this to make the decisions to move forward with this. I'm definitely going to be relying on other people to help out. I'm lucky within national office to have some great coworkers who know quite a lot about this sort of thing and are able to sit down and chat with us. But I'm also really excited to be able to open the dialogue to all of you and have really rich conversations about where this can go. What it looks like, we're not quite sure yet, and I know that is probably going to be very unsatisfactory for a lot of people in the audience right now, but we are working on it. We are hoping that we will have a draft policy for you for this time next year. We wanted to give you a good timeline, and once again, not promise that we would get you something in 6 months and know that we wouldn't be able to deliver on that. So within this next year, we are going to be looking at all of our partners case by case. There is no yes/no answer when it comes to this sort of issue, but we will be using the knowledge that we gain as well as the intuitions that we have when looking at both current and new prospects for partnering with EWB. I know I can speak from people on my team as well as within national office and even further that our bottom line is Dorothy, and we want to make sure that everything we do is for Dorothy. And so we are taking this matter very seriously, and we are going to be moving forward with it within this next year and hopefully engaging quite a lot of you in this as well to once again make sure that those relationships are beneficial on both sides of the coin, both for EWB as well as for the companies engaging with us. So that is my information for you. I am happy to take questions from you guys right now if need be, or a few of them. Once again, we are at a very beginning stage for this, so I apologize in advance if I don't have the answers for you, but I am more than happy to keep talking about this offline and continue this discussion over the next few months. Kane.
Hi, Kane Williams. So you spoke about rather than a transactional basis, you're already trying to move towards some engagement and dialogue with some of the people that are supporting our efforts. Can you speak to some specifics about what the current landscape already is? Although we realize from what you're saying that you're looking to evaluate all that.
Mm-hmm. So are you, just to clarify your question, are you looking for current relationships that we are using right now and kind of building in that more levels than just the financial?
No, I'll definitely clarify.
Okay.
You said that there's already been some movement
Mm-hmm.
to go away from just the straight transaction
Mm-hmm.
to some engagement and dialogue, and so I'm interested in some specifics about what the engagement and dialogue looks like. Is that clear?
For moving forward with the actual policy. No.
So does none happen yet? It sounded like when you're talking like something is already happening, and so I'm interested in specifics in that if that is already happening.
Okay, so we are actually still engaging with the partners that we have right now. We are actually using the guidelines that we sort of have and the policies that are to work with our partners. Some of our biggest partners right now are engaging with us. I mean, if you look, we have the chair of our board is one of also our biggest corporate sponsors, and they have heavily invested within EWB. And look at our sponsors that are here tonight, who are also engaged with EWB in conversations and sessions right now. So those steps are moving forward. It definitely is not with every one of our partners right now. We understand that, but that takes time and that takes relationship building and managing. So, but we are looking to move it forward in that direction.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, and we also have said no to people and to funding within the last 12 months. So it isn't that we are just saying yes, 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 and then let's talk. We are actually already looking and making decisions, once again, case by case, based on what the current situation is. Joseph.
Hi, my name is Joseph Yang. I'm from Toronto chapter, YANG. This is more of a recommendation rather than a question. What I think would be really helpful to see would be more of an integrative financial strategy. So this really ties back to the last discussion about membership. I look at the number, 1,500 members with $20 to $40, and that maximum, that's $60,000 a year. And I think membership is a really huge untapped potential for unrestricted funding. And at the end of the day, the corporate fundraising is part of revenue generation stream. I'd like to see a little more strategic stance on, okay, if we're raising $100 for EWB in a year, how much do we want to come that? How much of it do we want to come from corporate funding, and also from donations? And I think that area has a lot of room to grow. And when you make that policy decision, I think that's something that you might want to take into account so that you have less reliance on this corporate funding. Thank you.
Thank you for the recommendation. I would say, and I hope George agrees with this, is that that's actually something that we are talking about, like looking at our budgets and the budgets that George has presented. We look at those revenue lines line by line and figure out for the next 1 to 3 to 5 years where all of that money is going to be coming from. So it definitely is top of mind for us to be looking at those ratios and where that is coming from.
I just want to add, Joseph and a group of us had a good discussion last night. I got a lot of good advice from the Toronto chapter. They've been very successful in their fundraising efforts, and Run to End Poverty, I think they've kind of won the star in terms of the raise on Run to End Poverty. So there are a lot of great ideas within the chapters and the city networks. A lot of good thinking around this whole concept. So I did benefit, Joseph, from our discussion last night, and your team. You guys do a fantastic job, and I think these ideas, if we can bring them forward, can be quite energizing. So.
Great. Once again, the same as Josh, if anyone does have any questions, I am also here for the rest of the conference, as well as accessible at any time. Feel free to get a hold of me. We will probably be tapping on you guys just as much as you probably want to talk to me. So feel free to get in touch with me at any time, and we will continue this conversation. Thank you.
Merci, Beth. Okay, we're close. We're close. In fact, you can start the drum roll now if you want. Thank you. So I'm going to call on Josh, your able elected director, to report on the next elected director. Josh Van Wyck.
Okay. So it's my honor. First of all, I want to say that it was just such a pleasure to have so many able candidates present themselves. And it's unfortunate that we don't have 5 positions on the board for elected members. But hopefully the remaining 4 will remain highly engaged with the organization moving forward. That said, it is my honor to recognize our newest elected director, Annalise Chibis. Come on up.
Have a seat, Annalise. Welcome. Welcome to the board. Okay, sometimes this is people's favorite motion, but I've got closure anxiety here. I almost don't want to bring this to a close, but I know you want to move on to Q&A. And again, I appreciate the discourse and the engagement that you've shown tonight. So, if there is no further business, I would like someone to make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Who would like to make that motion? I see a couple hands I've already seen, but how about just your name, please? James? Can I have a seconder, please? Right at the back. You, sir. Name? Did you get it, Mary? Yes. Merci. Okay. Who is in favor of this motion of adjourning this meeting? I see a lot of orange. Very surprising. Very surprising. Okay. I may have to do a count, so just hang on. Anyone abstaining from the vote? We've had a lot of abstainers tonight. No one's abstaining. Anyone opposed to that motion? Well, so you're thinking about it, aren't you? Yeah. We could keep going. Okay, motion carried. This meeting is adjourned. It is officially, I think, the largest or the longest annual general meeting we've ever had in history. But, it's always a but. Promise to give Don Thurston the last word. He did not get a chance to speak to all the applause. Don's got something up his sleeve. I trust that it's quite brief, and then we'll be moving to Q&A. Mr. Don Thurston, our past chair.
So this is right back to you. I think that the recognition is much appreciated, and I thank you for that. But the facts are that what I was a much bigger beneficiary than anyone else, and it's really thanks to the membership for that. I can't tell you how much I really appreciate that. It's very humbling, and it's been a lot of fun, and thanks very much. So that's the membership. Now I have a little bit of a presentation for the directors. Is there something on the board? Yeah, that is a unique and really little understood award, but very prestigious, just slightly below Orders of Canada. The origins of it stem from when I just thought that I had enjoyed everything I could enjoy about EWB. I went off to Zambia and was taken in by a group of phenomenal EWBers there, and just probably had the most informative and best time of my life. So we struck this medallion. I can use the word medallion. It seems to be usable these days, and it was specifically designed by Trevor Freeman at great cost. You can see that its nature of it is really quite beautiful. And if you don't know Trevor, I recommend you seek him out, because not only is he a great designer, but he's got a wonderful sense of humor as well. So appreciate that. So in keeping with that, I'm going to induct all my fellow directors who are ex-fellow directors, I guess, who into the Order of the Brown Owl. It's an appreciation for working with just a wonderful group of people, and I'm going to miss them, and I wish you all the very best in the future, and thank you so much. So we just pass these down. Take one out of the envelope, and that's yours. And then finally, I have a limited edition set of EWB hats that I will pass on to the directors. They can have either orange or black on orange or orange on black. So if they'll pass down, and the black ones are coming.
Oh, wait for it.
Yeah, wait for it. Yeah, you're going to have to decide yourselves whether you're black-hatted or orange-hatted. I don't know how many there are, but help yourselves. A limited edition, very rare. Probably may never be seen again, particularly on George's head. I don't think he's a big hat wearer. So thanks again, and it's been a real great ride, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.